The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 651, The Monarch Snake's Opposition. Rubber is not conductive, so it can attack the main body of the thunder fruit. The king serpent has become a grass type Pokemon, and its plant body can also attack Enel's body. Although only dry tree leaves are insulators, king serpent is not a simple plant, but a grass type Pokemon, with Pokemon energy in its body. Just now, during king serpent's tail swing, the grass type energy was stimulated, and with the help of this energy, its plant-like body formed a special insulator. If Enel had eaten the flame fruit or the smoke fruit, he would still be immune to king serpent's attacks, but he happened to eat the thunder fruit. Because of his arrogance, he did not avoid the beast's attack, so he was slapped out. Seeing Enel being slapped out, the men who came here with him were shocked. It was because of Enel's powerful strength that they followed suit and became priests under Enel. Since the day of the destruction of Bika, they have never seen Enel injured. You pissed me off, beast. The slapped Enel left a deep gully on the island cloud. In fact, after being slapped, he could already transform into an element, but he hadn't known what pain felt like for a long time. At the moment he was slapped, his mind stagnated for a short time, and then anger filled his brain. In front of his priest, a beast hit him with its tail. This was simply a shame for a god. Sizzle. Thick electric currents wrapped around Enel, making his whole body flash with electric light, and even his eyes were filled with azure lightning. 30 million volt thunder beast. The golden stick in Enel's hand hit the drum on his left shoulder, and the powerful electric current condensed from his body into a wolf-headed beast, running towards the monarch snake. He wanted to use the other part his life, to wash away the insult he had suffered. The target of the king serpent was large. Even though its speed was not slow, its huge body still reduced its evasive ability. The lightning attack released by Enel hit it hard. As the lightning spread throughout the king serpent's body, everyone around it could not open their eyes temporarily because of the dazzling lightning. Yahahaha, feel the wrath of God. Even if your body is special, a beast relying on brute force is still a beast. Enel held back his words. As the lightning, generated by the thunder beast dissipated, the king serpent's figure appeared in everyone's sight again. Although there were more traces of lightning on its body, its figure was still upright, and there was a hint of ferocity in its vertical pupils. As one of the 3 grass-type starter Pokemons, the king serpent had a higher resistance to lightning attacks. Its huge body made it lose some flexibility, but it also gained a stronger physique. Enel's attack hit it with skin injuries at most, but his lightning would also cause pain to the king serpent, and Enel had previously destroyed the totem of the Shandia tribe. Enel hurt serpent both mentally and physically. Roar. The giant mouth roared, and serpent gathered a large number of leaves into the sky. Each leaf was the size of an adult, and these leaves began to circle in the sky. It was a Pokemon transformed from Sky Island Serpent. When it was a giant snake, its attitude towards humans was very ordinary. After being transformed, Serpent's personality made it more arrogant. It would not do anything to not fight back when being beaten. It protected the Shandians according to Arceus orders, and also attacked those annoying invaders. In return, Serpent prepared a big gift for him at the beginning, the grass-type skill, Leaf Storm. The dense leaves formed a terrible tornado, rolling towards Enel like a crusher. As a grass-type skill, Leaf Storm is very powerful, like a tornado. Even if the rocks are caught in it, they will be turned into powder in an instant. Arsehole. Enel's figure turned into lightning, and disappeared in the attack range of Leaf Storm. When he showed up again, he was already in the sky, but compared to his previous arrogance, he looked a little more embarrassed. The white head scarf wrapped around his head disappeared, revealing the short curly hair like a middle-aged aunt underneath. He thought it was just the opponent's body that was special, but he didn't expect that long-range attacks would have this effect. If it weren't for his fast speed and his observation hacky accurately predicting all the positions of King Serpent's attack, he wouldn't be able to get out. Seeing that Enel dodged his attack, King Serpent's eyes became more impatient and began to prepare a new attack. Enel still relied on the ability of active elementalization, to evade the opponent's attack. But judging from the feedback of the attack, King Serpent's attack became more and more powerful. Leaf Storm is different from Sunflame. Both are powerful moves. The cost of Sunflame is that it needs to be charged, while the cost of Leaf Storm is a significant decrease in special attack. Originally, this was a nerf, but the characteristic of this King Serpent was to play the opposite tune, a characteristic that reversed the buff and debuff. The special attack weakened King Serpent, but it turned into a special attack enhancement, making it more and more courageous. The pride in Enel's heart was also angered by the King Serpent. He did not attack others, but focused on attacking the King Serpent. In his eyes, those Shandians were just bugs, and this giant snake was the only threat. So the situation entered a dead loop. Although the attack power of the King Serpent was very high, it could not hit Enel. The King Serpent's mind-reading level of observation haki combined with the Thunder Fruit, the King Serpent had no way to deal with Enel. Similarly, Enel could not end the King Serpent. His attack could hit the King Serpent, but due to its huge size and the resistance provided by the grass type, the damage caused was very limited, and the King Serpent would also restore its physical strength through photosynthesis. After fighting for a while, Enel chose to retreat temporarily. Beast, remember this, I'll give you some breathing time to think about whether to join me. The initiative is in his hands. If Enel wants to leave, the King Serpent can't stop him. In the days that followed, Enel would attack here every 1 or 2 days, and each time he would come up with a new means of attack. The power of the observation haki and the ability of the Thunder Fruit both reflect Enel's talent, and his battles have gradually become able to achieve some results. Although he still can't do anything to the King Serpent, the damage caused is gradually increasing, and the scope of destruction is getting larger and larger, even affecting the picking of Sky Island shells. Therefore, the Shandia people asked for help from Onigashima, hoping to deal with the other party as soon as possible. 2 updates. The system is a bit slow. Recently, the day and night are reversed. I will restore the status and update as soon as possible. Chapter 652. A mere power bank dares to call itself a god. As time passed, the battle between Serpenti and Enel continued, and gradually turned into a showdown of endurance. Enel's attacks could not kill Serpenti, and Serpenti's attacks could hardly hit Enel. Serpenti was beaten most of the time. Serpenti had a chance to hit Enel, only when its physical strength was almost exhausted, and its speed slowed down. However, at this time, Enel would choose to retreat and appear again after a period of recuperation. The battle usually lasted no more than a day. As the battle continued, Enel also found certain problems. In the most recent battle, he did not appear during the day, but came to Arpeado at night. He did not choose to sneak attack, but just hit the drum on his back with a golden stick. This was not a prerequisite for using the Thunder Fruit, but just Enel's personal habit. Perhaps he thought it was cool, so he did it. The roaring thunder and lightning awakened the sleeping Sandia people and the people of Sky Island, and also attracted Serpenti's attention. I understand. Your power is related to the sun. You can recover faster in the sun, right? Then can you still do this at night? After several battles, he has discovered the characteristics of the monarch snake. Under the sun, it can not only recover its physical strength, but also some of its moves become stronger. That's why he attacked at night. He didn't sneak attack, because he was proud, but not sneak attacking didn't mean he wouldn't choose a battlefield that was more favorable to him. The night without the sun was more suitable for him. As Enel's drum was struck, a fierce battle broke out again between the snake and the man. At first, Enel would bring his priests and guards here, but when he found that those people were no different from ants to the monarch snake, he gave up this behavior. Before he went to the Infinite Land, he still needed some people to serve God. He didn't want those subordinates to be cleaned up by the monarch snake like this. The same is true for the Shandians. They are no longer qualified to participate in this battle. If Enel didn't want to defeat the monarch snake first and then deal with them, their situation would be even more difficult. The monarch snake still couldn't restrict Enel's movement. In order not to affect the monarch snake's battle, the Shandians could only watch from a distance. Chief, are we just going to watch? Let this invader come and go freely in our homeland? The new messenger sent by the ancient god will be here soon. This is not a battle we can intervene in. Waiting and watching is the best result. The battle between Narlan and Enel is still going on. Enel guessed correctly. As a monarch snake, Narlan has always relied on photosynthesis to provide a strong recovery power in daily battles. The sun above 10,000 meters in the sky gave it a great help with the sunlight flames that did not need to be charged and photosynthesis that quickly restored physical strength. It was difficult for the parasitic seeds and the ultimate absorption to capture Enel's figure. At night, the monarch snake's battle was far from easy, and it became difficult to recover the physical strength consumed by Enel. Although singing the opposite tune made it fearless of debuffs, it did not have the effect of becoming more excited as the physical strength decreased. The Shandians on the side also felt the shortcomings of the monarch snake, and could only pray that the monarch snake could hold on until the sun rose. But at this time, several young people in the Shandian crowd looked at each other and quietly left the crowd. Waper, will this work? Several young people looked at the tattooed man in the lead. He was Waper, the strongest of the new generation of Shandians. He was called a war ghost by his fellow tribesmen. The chief also intended to train him to be the next chief. He was 18 years old this year, and was at the age of blood and vigor. When Enel came here with the priests and guards, he would lead the tribe to fight with them. But when Enel was alone, he had lost his opponent, and was unwilling to watch the other side fight. This was not a duel, but an invasion of their homeland. Facing the invaders, there was no need to talk about morality. The other party chose the night, which was not conducive to the monarch snake fighting, and Waper wanted to provide some help to the monarch snake. It's useful. According to the knowledge in the oracle, that guy is just a devil fruit user, and Seaston is his nemesis, he said, carrying a rocket launcher-like object. This bullet was given to us by the ancient god. It is filled with Seaston powder. We don't need to hit him. As long as it explodes next to him, it will be enough to help the messenger of God. Like the special prism bullets made by the Navy, they are weapons prepared to restrain the ability users. The powder after the explosion will not only make the ability users temporarily unable to use their abilities, but also make them extremely powerless. They also used this thing in the initial battle, but Enel was too fast, and could completely dodge it before the explosion. Even a sneak attack would be useless, so the chief did not make any move. With the cover of the night, Waper felt that he might not have no chance of success. Holding the rocket launchers in their hands, the group gradually approached the direction of the battlefield under the cover of the night. 30 million volts Thunderbird, a giant bat made of lightning, flew out of Enel's body. When the lightning sounded, Waper and the others pulled the triggers in their hands, covering up the sound of the rocket launcher to the greatest extent. But they underestimated Enel's observation haki. Even though his main focus was on the battle with the monarch snake, his observation haki still sensed the surrounding situation. At the moment when Waper and the others attacked, he noticed the evil thoughts in the hearts of several people and the sound of the rocket launcher. The figure that was originally standing in front of the monarch snake instantly turned into lightning. When the lightning reorganized into his body again, he had already arrived in front of Waper and the others. The Seaston powder produced by the explosion did not touch him at all. Mortals, who gave you the courage to dare to interfere in the battle between gods? Waper and the others did not expect that Enel found their position in a few seconds. Waper had no time to change the warhead. Waper reflexively used the barrel to pull at the opponent, but it only pulled out a flash of lightning. Enel's shattered body began to reorganize rapidly. You will pay the price for interfering in the war of gods. The monarch snake noticed the movement here, but before it could stop it, Enel's hand had already turned into lightning and grabbed at Waper with a cruel smile on his face. This was his nature. Sizzle. The lightning flashed, but Waper didn't feel any pain at all. The strong lightning made him unable to open his eyes, but in his blurred vision, he saw another statue on the totem pole, the one belonging to Zerora. Then where do you get the confidence to say that you are a god? Chapter 653. Hurry up, I'm in a hurry. When Arceus and his companions came to Sky Island, the Shandians had 3 more totem poles, symbolizing the ancient god Arceus and his 2 messengers, Monarch Snake and Zerora. They became a familiar story to the children, who grew up after that, but except for Monarch Snake, they had never seen Arceus or Zerora. This was the first time in their lives. After receiving the order, Zerora rushed here at full speed, but the distance from Ghost Island to Sky Island was long. Even if he flew, it would still take a lot of time, but it seemed that it was still in time. Young man, you have good courage, but this is not the place for you to come. Nalan. Take them away, and change players in the middle of the game. Zerora grabbed the golden stick swung by Enel with one hand. Even if Enel passed the current to his weapon, it had no effect on him. Zerora not only has the ability to absorb external lightning and use it for his own use, but his own characteristic is also to store electricity. No matter how powerful the lightning attack is, it is equivalent to the golden healing shuriken. Not only will it not cause any damage, but it will also restore his consumed physical strength and replenish more electrical energy. Garo two thick vine whips were released from the neck of the monarch snake, entangled with Waper and others and left here. Enelu did not react. It seemed that neither he nor Zerora made any moves, but in fact, his actions were interrupted by Zerora several times in a row. But their speed was too fast. In the dark night, the people next to them did not even see the afterimage. The only thing they could feel was a few flashes of lightning. I heard that there is an ignorant person in Sky Island who claims to be a god. It seems that it is you. You beasts, one or two of you are really infuriating. God's punishment. Since coming to this Sky Island, no one recognizes his identity as a god. Previously, the Shandians at least feared his strength, and the monarch snake was very cautious in fighting him. But from Zerora, he sensed a sense of contempt. His wrist turned into lightning and stretched into the clouds. The lightning several meters thick was drawn down by Enel and struck Zerora directly. Foolish beast, this is the price you pay for despising God. Experience the punishment brought by God. Yeah, the Enel was halfway through laughing when he suddenly noticed something unusual. There was no sound in the lightning, and there was only a figure stretching. You are so polite. It will be difficult for me to beat you later. The power consumed on the way here has been replenished at this time, and even some overflowed. Zerora has never encountered such an interesting power bank. This efficiency is higher than that of the electric shock monster. Although he said so, Zerora did not hold back in his actions. Just hit his head from the left. Enel noticed Zerora's thoughts, but before he could react, Zerora had already kicked him on the head, and Zerora's legs were covered with a layer of black domineering. He is not a monarch snake. He can practice what humans can practice. As a senior Kada in the new world, mastering two-color domineering is the most basic ability. Is it like this again? Is it the power of God? Zerora, like the monarch snake, can attack his body. They are originally a group. From the psychological activities of those Shandians, we can know that they are even called messengers of God. Next is the chest. After knowing that the opponent's attack cannot be resisted, Enel wants to disperse the position where the opponent is going to attack and advance. This is also a common way for natural ability users to avoid armed color attacks. Haki can hurt the body of natural system, but the premise of this is to touch them. As long as you make room in advance, the opponent's attack will naturally become invalid, but the result is no different from before. The domineering hits his chest directly, and Enel immediately spits out blood. There are always fools who think that nature type is invincible. Your observation haki is very strong, but you don't have armament haki at all. Impossible. I clearly heard it. Enel couldn't understand it. He clearly heard the opponent's movements, but he couldn't avoid them. No matter how he dodged, the opponent's attack would still hit him intact. The ability to read minds is good, but your physical training is too poor. As long as you are hit before your body reacts, the problem will be solved, right? The letter sent by Sky Island roughly described Enel's abilities. The two most critical abilities, the Thunder Fruit and Mind Reading, were included. This is why Zerora was asked to deal with this. As the fastest among the beast Kadas and the one who is immune to lightning, he is Enel's natural nemesis. Lightning attacks are ineffective against him. Although his observation haki can sense Zerora's actions, his reaction is not as good as Zerora's strong body. He loses completely in terms of physical strength. Well, there are people waiting for me at home. I don't have time to waste with you. You dare to attack here, you should be prepared to pay the price. Zerora appeared in front of Enel in a flash and punched him in the face. At this moment, what Enel heard also surprised him. What should I bring home for the children? In Zerora's mind, Enel at this stage is not an opponent at all. In addition to delaying his time with his family, he is just a pure egomaniac. Facing an opponent who is not slower than him and is proficient in two-color domineering, Enel has no room to resist. In the eyes of the Shandians, this is a battle they cannot understand. They can't see human figures, only two groups of lightning flashing alternately in the air. In the end, the lightning directly penetrated the island cloud of the Sky Island and fell straight down. After about 10 minutes, Zerora's figure returned to the Sky Island, and Enel had disappeared. Lord God's envoy, that man, the chief of Shandia, came to Zerora and asked him about the enemy's situation. It has been solved. He will not come here to make trouble again. You can live in peace. Lord God's envoy, the progress of shell collection this year has been delayed. This matter? Oh, it doesn't matter. The Lord said that it can be postponed for 2 months. 2 months should be enough, right? Enough. We will provide enough shells by then. Lord God's envoy has worked hard all the way. Come to the tribe to rest first. Zerora didn't want to delay, but the chief repeatedly persuaded him to stay and said that the newborn children and the tribe wanted to see other gods' envoys, so he decided to stay for one night and return to Ghost Island tomorrow morning. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 654, Where is Dad? The Missing Steel Armor Crow. The Shandians had long been awakened by the sound of the battle. At the call of the chief, the entire tribe gathered together, and the newly born children of the tribe also saw another messenger of God on the totem pole. Overall, nothing major happened, but the Shandians still maintained some backward customs. Due to the arrival of Rolando hundreds of years ago, the Shandians abolished cruel customs such as living sacrifices, but some customs were retained. For example, let the young girls of the tribe accompany the messenger of God. When the chief proposed this idea, Zerora bid farewell to the Shandian tribe at the speed of lightning. After chatting with the monarch snake for a while, he got up and returned to Onigashima. Thanks to Enel, Zerora not only did not feel tired after the fight, but also felt refreshed. Classically, due to the large gap, he was full of blood and mana after killing the enemy alone, which made the audience who did not understand suspect that this was a fake game. At this time, in Wano country, Kuri, Zerora's home. Compared with the simple little house back then, it has been expanded into a single family villa. Originally, Zerora and Setsuna had no intention of expanding the house, but more and more people were living here. Setsuna's parents and sister, the adopted Perona, the followers, Bear and Beppo, the occasional young Jissi-kan, and the two newly born children. Sometimes there were guests from Zal, Yamato who came to visit, subordinates who were handing over tasks, etc. The original hut could no longer meet their needs, and the new house had become a necessity for future life. A more functional house was born. In addition to the separate bedroom, utility room, and guest room, there was also a separate studio and a larger basement. Perona's only request was a dark room, and in order to make it darker, she strongly requested to live in the basement. At this time, Setsuna was exchanging ideas with Mariah on the grass outside the door. Mariah had no children, and was not even married, but as she grew older, she showed more and more motherly behavior. Unlike Charlotte Linlin's periodic love for young children, Mariah was like this to most children. Zerora and Setsuna were the few people Mariah was familiar with who had already had children. Wolf, Miawana, you two get down here. Setsuna went out to get some things, and when he came back, he saw the two children climbing up. Now they were hanging on Mariah's two horns, one on the left and one on the right, and seemed to be curious about this. His two children were already 2.5 years old. As they grew older, they became more lively, or in other words, naughty. It's okay, Sister Setsuna, let them play if they like, they are not heavy anyway. The two little ones were like plush toys to Mariah, and she didn't feel anything, even if they crawled on her head. That's not the problem. The two little guys are getting bolder and bolder. The last time Lord Arceus came, they climbed directly on him. If we don't take care of them, they might go to heaven in the future. Setsuna talked about the heroic deeds of the brother and sister in the past. They were at an age where they were fearless, and the fur tribe was naturally active, so they dared to grab anyone who came to see them. Wolf is the elder brother, Miawana is the younger sister. The naming method is not complicated, just according to the custom of the fur tribe. The elder brother was named because his race seems to be white wolf. The younger sister was named because she learned to speak later and always made similar sounds. Under the reprimand of Setsuna, Miawana climbed down from the top first, while Wolf was delayed for a while before retreating. Didn't I tell you to be polite to guests? Be careful when Zerora comes back, I will confiscate your gifts. But, Sister Mariah asked us to climb up. That's right, it's not our fault, Mom, you can't do this. The brother and sister protested to this, and Setsuna rubbed their heads wildly. That won't work either. There must be rules. This is not right. Zao will be near Wano country in a few days. Do you still want to go play? Okay, Setsuna, you were much wilder than them when you were a child. I think they probably inherited your personality. Teach them slowly. They are still young and have a lot of time. It's time to eat now. Ling and Hatch, who were out, also came back here at this time and happened to hear Setsuna educating his children. They had no intention of interfering in their daughter's home education, but just didn't want to waste time. Finally, after Wolf and Miawana promised not to do such a thing again, Setsuna put them one by one on the special children's dining chair. This was modified from the Rotom cradle. As they grew older, the function of the cradle was gradually changing. From the cradle to the walker, and then to the current safety seat is the most obvious change. Mariah was also invited to stay here. Due to the height problem, Mariah was not convenient to enter Zerora's house. Even if their room was built a little bigger, Mariah had to bend over to enter. Mom, when will dad come back? He's been out for a long time. It's been several dozen days. Miawana counted her fingers, but still didn't give an exact number. Soon, dad has gone to work. He will be back soon after defeating the enemy. He also brought you gifts from there. Zerora had called Setsuna after the battle. According to the distance, he would be back in a few days at most. Since there was no emergency, she didn't let Zerora rush, but asked him to deal with other islands on the way. The two of them had been on vacation for a long time, and they would not feel at ease if they didn't do anything. Seeing the happy family, Mariah had a loving aunt smile on her face, but just as she picked up the teacup, Yamato suddenly ran over from the side in a hurry. Mariah, do you have time? Something big has happened. What's wrong? Do you need help? I don't have anything to do. Then you can come along too. I just called Jack. Let's go now. Wait, you haven't told me what happened yet. It's the sky taxi. Taxi number 28 didn't return today, and Steel Crow has lost contact. We haven't found any trace of it on the islands along the way. I think my godfather is a little angry. Let's go and find it. The Steel Crow taxi has been running for more than a year, and nothing has gone wrong so far. But this time, not only did the passengers fail to reach their destination, but even Steel Crow disappeared. The Pokemon created by Arceus will not betray him inexplicably. The only possibility is an accident. Chapter 655, The Long Lost Golden Lion. Yamato is 20 years old this year. She is no longer the little kid she was many years ago. She also wants to do something within her ability. She overheard this news outside the door, and even took action privately. Seeing that Yamato was very serious, Mariah did not intend to stay any longer. After saying goodbye to Setsuna's family, she followed Yamato to the dock, where she saw Jack, who had been ready. Why is it the mammoth? Yamato, didn't Lord Arceus prepare a ship for you? Why don't you drive your own ship? In terms of power, Yamato's ship can be said to be the first ship in the Beast Pirates. Even the Origin and the King of Beasts are not as fast as Yamato's ship. But it was Jack's ship that was ready at this time, which made Mariah feel a little bit wrong. Oh, don't worry about this detail. Hurry up and we should set off. Yamato did not seem to want to answer this question, but pushed Jack and Mariah onto the ship, and soon left the harbor and headed towards the sea outside. Yamato, where should we look for her? Wait, let me see. The location where the Steel Crow disappeared is this island. Many islands nearby are not our territory. Let's start from the sea area. Yamato took out a nautical chart with many wrinkles and marks and quickly circled the approximate exploration location. Mariah felt that something was wrong, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. Jack didn't care about such trivial matters, so the mammoth continued to sail towards that sea area. But Yamato didn't know that her departure was clearly known to the ghost island. Lord Holy Beast, Miss Yamato has already set off on Jack's ship, and the nautical chart is definitely in her hands. Is there anything else to pay attention to? The disappearance of the Steel Crow was not a matter of the past 2 days. It was almost the time when Sky Island was attacked. Taxi number 28 did not return. No one took it seriously at the time. Due to the abnormal climate of the Grand Line, the Steel Crow cannot guarantee the stability of the route. When encountering force majeure factors, they will choose to take a detour or dock at an island nearby and continue to sail with passengers after the storm ends. But after several days, there was still no information about Car 28. When the beasts followed the positioning device on the car to find it, they only saw the damaged car on the island. The rest of the people and Steel Crow were all missing, and it can be confirmed that they have entered a missing state. After that, the beasts quickly locked the approximate range of the sea area and conducted a certain degree of search, but it did not achieve any results. When Shaina reported the latest situation today, Arceus was a little angry. It is not common for Pokémon to disappear, let alone a Pokémon like Steel Crow. Yamato also made this decision after accidentally hearing the conversation between Shaina and Arceus. In order to let her continue to grow, Arceus and Shaina pretended that they did not find Yamato and let her take the sea chart. No need, she is no longer a child. If you want to do it, but there seems to be something wrong behind this matter. Arceus did not go there in person, but there was also a beast exploration team nearby, but they did not find any trace of Steel Crow, as if it had mysteriously disappeared. No matter who is behind this matter is not simple. Yes, Lord Holy Beast, I'm leaving first. Call me if you need anything. After finishing the matters at hand, Shaina left here temporarily, and Arceus also made a phone call, Kaido's phone. This was also an opportunity that he did not go to look for in person. It was best to leave one person on Onigashima. Kaido was away before, so Arceus naturally stayed here. Hello, Kaido. Huh? What's wrong? Do you have any clues about that matter? Arceus asked Kaido very directly. He had been wandering around outside before, so this matter should be handed over to him. The disappearance of Steel Crow is not just that simple, it also represents all beasts. Its disappearance means that someone is challenging the dignity of all beasts. A little, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. Yamato went to your sea area. You can take care of her secretly, but if there is nothing else, you don't have to show up. That girl has also started to take the initiative. Don't worry. I'm very sensible in this regard. You don't have to worry about things here. Just deal with other things with peace of mind. After a burst of laughter, Kaido hung up the phone, which was considered a reassurance to the other party. But most people can't bear his care. With Kaido's character, as long as the person is alive, it is not a big deal. Even if Yamato knew there was such an insurance, he would not rely on Kaido. Far away from the place where Steel Llama Crow disappeared, a huge sky island also appeared in the sky. And this island does not look like an island made of island clouds, but more like a natural island. The island floats in the air because of an unknown force, and there is even a waterfall flowing down. There are all kinds of strange beasts living on the island, which is not suitable for human habitation at all, but even such a place is still occupied by people. Puff, puff, there was a strange sound in the air, and a man wearing a scarf and dressed like a clown came out. Karakale. Captain Shiki, there is a new breakthrough, said Dr. Indigo, a cadre of the Sky Pirates, a scientist, and a senior cadre who has always followed Golden Lion. Many years ago, in order to successfully escape from Impulse City, Golden Lion cut off his feet that were bound by ceased shackles. He also used the two swords of Sakura Ten and Muku as prosthetic limbs. After escaping from prison, Shiki came to the New World and discussed future plans with Whitebird, and then came to an island called Vilmiu. Here, Golden Lion discovered special plants on the island. This plant has many edible ingredients, one of which is called IQ. For many years, He hid his whereabouts and studied IQ with his trusted deputy Dr. Indigo and lived on the floating island to plan a comeback. But their plan did not go smoothly. Although IQ can make beasts more aggressive, it can also make beasts out of control, so there has been no result. What breakthrough? It's the Iron Bird. IQ has a big impact on it, but it's still within control. A few days ago, they found a Steelix by chance. Compared with pure beasts, these intelligent Pokemon are more suitable for this kind of thing. And this is why Steelix disappeared. Golden Lion used his ability to keep carriage number 28 and studied the Steelix that pulled the carriage. Chapter 656. He is just an intern. What can he do? Golden Lion was also a famous pirate on the sea. He lived in the same era as Whitebeard and Roger, and even led an era of monsters. If it weren't for bad luck, the result of the Battle of Eadwall would have changed the balance of the whole world. His ambition is not just to be the Pirate King, but to want the whole world. Like his former captain Rox, they all have the ambition to be the king of the world. However, after the Battle of Eadwall, Golden Lion first lost a large number of troops, and because of Roger's surrender, he broke into the Navy headquarters alone, and was arrested and imprisoned. Although he escaped from prison with the courage to cut off his legs, after that, Golden Lion's thoughts seemed to have changed. Crocodile, who was defeated by Whitebeard, was looking for Pluto, and wanted to use the power of ancient weapons. Moria, who was defeated by Kaido, began to seek an immortal zombie army, because all his partners died. After encountering setbacks, some people forgot that their own strength was the foundation, and began to seek external forces. Golden Lion is somewhat similar, but not exactly the same. He needs more troops, so that he can prove his power of revenge to the world government. Compared with humans, he set his sights on beasts. In fact, he has a simpler way, using his ability to float the islands above important places. In this way, once he dies, or falls into a coma, the islands will fall down, causing irreversible damage to the countries below. But it is also fortunate that he did not do this. This behavior will seriously challenge the balance maintained by the world government. Once his purpose is exposed, the world government will destroy him at all costs. Even if there will be huge casualties after his death, the world government will not choose to hold back. They will not care about the lives of people in several countries. Even if he hangs the island above Mary G's, the world government has a way to deal with it. They can stand for 800 years, relying on the same force. In this process, countless islands have been evaporated by special means. This is also the reason why the 100 beasts are just expanding. Facing unknown forces, finding all the stone slabs is the safest way. They have no shortage of time. It will take a few more years to find the lost stone slabs. There will be no possibility of any rollover, and there will be no large-scale casualties. Puff, puff, clang, clang. Two strange footsteps came one after another. The fake feet made of the two swords of the Golden Lion and the strange farting shoes of Indigo made strange noises. There were not many people on this island. They were all deads taken away by Indigo that year, and they were also the last team of the Golden Lion. Admiral, IQ has a good effect on this creature. The power it explodes after being manic is even more terrifying, and it still retains a certain degree of consciousness, but the situation is very special. You will know when you come to see it. Indigo took the Golden Lion to the laboratory on the island. As the door opened, a huge noise came from the room. What's going on? Isn't this guy afraid of IQ plants? There are many giant beasts on this island that they have transformed using IQ. Even the Golden Lions can't control these monsters. They can only limit their living range with the breath of the IQ plants they fear. These monsters were originally just ordinary animals on the island 14 years ago. The people, animals, and plants on this island were still living in harmony. It was not until the Golden Lion discovered this place and used the power of the floating fruit to move the island directly that things changed. Plants were studied by his subordinate Indigo, animals were transformed, and the original residents became people who provided living materials for his remnants. But this time Indigo used a cage to restrict the other party instead of plants. Facing the question of Golden Lion, Indigo did not answer, but danced and made strange movements, like doing yoga, putting his body in various strange shapes. Oh, so that's it. I understand. How did you understand it? Seeing that Golden Lion understood what he meant, Indigo was unable to understand. It just understood it. Isn't this guy afraid of IQ? This is a daily life between Golden Lion and Indigo. At this time, Indigo is the most trusted subordinate of Golden Lion. Even if his behavior is strange, he can understand it. Indigo reached out and removed the black cloth covering the cage, revealing the slightly manic steel-armored crow underneath. This crow is made of steel. It was not until its physical strength was almost exhausted that this iron cage could barely trap it. Besides, it can fly. IQ alone is useless. Isn't this the same as those wild beasts? Even more manic. No, Admiral, look at this. Indigo said, bringing a piece of paper with a golden pattern. When the paper appeared in front of the steel-armored crow, the originally manic crow suddenly calmed down. Huh. It's this pattern. I accidentally discovered that, even if it enters a violent state, it will not attack people with this pattern. Indigo showed it, and put the pattern on his chest. He boldly reached in, and touched the body of the violent steel-armored crow. Although the steel-armored crow made a low roar, it still restrained its behavior, and refused to attack Indigo. Before this, Indigo had let many people test it, and basically guaranteed safety. In addition, the Golden Lion was behind him, so he dared to be so bold. In other words, this pattern can control it? No, it seems that it can't understand commands when it's in a berserk state, and there's only one individual, so we can't continue the experiment. The conclusion we've drawn so far is that this pattern can make it give up attacking, but we don't know where its endurance limit is. Indigo handed the paper to the Golden Lion, and at the same time as the paper was lost, the beak of the steel crow pierced out from the gap in the iron cage, targeting Indigo. Interesting. Is this pattern something new that Kaido's kid made? It wasn't Kaido's pirate flag, but the logo of Arceus' Thousand Universe arm. The IQ made the steel crow go berserk, and all living things would be its targets of attack, but the instinct in its bones made it still abide by the rules set by its creator. But its confused brain only remembered the Thousand Universe arm, and it no longer had the ability to distinguish the others. So, Indigo, this kind of bird is the most suitable creature at the moment, right? That's what it looks like at the moment. But Admiral, these crows seem to be creatures controlled by the Beast's pirates. Beasts. That guy is just an apprentice. When I was a pirate, he didn't even know where he came from. Golden Lion has no fear of Kaido. He has not cut off contact with the outside world over the years, but the information he can receive is very limited. Chapter 657 Fools have good luck. Golden Lion's memory of Kaido still stays before the Battle of God Valley. After that, he had no intersection with Kaido. When Kaido was growing up, Golden Lion had already become a famous pirate on the sea. In his opinion, only people like Whitebird and Roger are worthy of being his opponents. Apprentices like Kaido who relied on Charlotte Linlin to grow up smoothly on the ship are not a big problem at all. After getting these islands into the sky, Golden Lion began to develop his mind and lived a self-sufficient life relying on the remaining population on the island. The degree of isolation is comparable to the previous Sky Island. Occasionally, he would see some news in the newspaper, but he didn't take it to heart. For example, he didn't take the title of the Emperor of the Sea seriously. In his opinion, if he hadn't retired, he would be the one closest to the Pirate King. Have you found the whereabouts of these birds? No, this kind of crow moves irregularly between islands. According to what those people said, this kind of crow seems to be responsible for picking up and dropping off guests between islands. Not only the steel crow was captured, but also the passengers in the taxi. After getting the information he wanted from them, the Golden Lion threw them into the village on the island. Let's release it and see if it will return to its nest by itself. Indigo, you should have something that can locate it, right? It's not difficult, but will it really return to its nest after being released? It's an instinct for birds to return to their nests. Even if it doesn't go back, doesn't it have a locator? A bus with a fixed route is easy to find. Just wait on the fixed route. But the steel crow is a taxi, not a bus. They don't have to follow a fixed route when flying in the sky, and they will even choose a more suitable route according to the situation. Kaido's territory is now very large, and the operation range of the Steel Crow taxi even includes the territories of Sahei and Charlotte Linlin. As long as they have money, they can send passengers to most places. In this case, looking for a Steel Crow is like looking for a needle in a haystack. They can only hope for the Steel Crow in their hands. In addition to attacking, most beasts after going berserk act according to their biological instincts. This is just an attempt. Indigo also has a potion to relieve the berserk, but the Steel Crow's reaction is too smart. If it is allowed to return to normal, it may not do that. As a scientist under the Golden Lion, Indigo is also a top talent. It is not complicated to make a basic locator. He quickly released the Steel Crow again. It is good to be able to find the other tribe. Even if you can't find it, if the ferocious Steel Crows wantonly kill on an island, he can also observe the battle situation. As the Steel Crows were released, the floating islands controlled by the Golden Lion gradually flew in the direction of the locator. No one noticed that several small black dots were moving quietly in the towering sky. After a while, in the sea where the Steel Crow disappeared, on the Mammoth, I suddenly feel that this is a mistake. Looking at the blue sea, Jack suddenly sighed. At that time, Yamato called them to come out to help, and they came without thinking much. But when they arrived at the designated sea area, they realized that this was a mistake. Because Yamato's plan is to have no plan, and taking one step at a time is her action plan. It's not long. Wait a few more days. Mariah has much more patience than Jack, but looking at Yamato's actions, she is not sure, because she is just driving away the seabirds. Strange. My godfather clearly said that bad Pokemon like Sweet Bamboo very much. Why is there no reaction at all? In addition to calling Jack and Mariah, she also brought a lot of Pokemon out, and Sweet Bamboo is one of them. Her purpose is to use Sweet Bamboo to fish out Steeljaw. Due to its nature, Sweet Bamboo is in the recipes of almost all bird Pokemon, and Steeljaw is one of them. The Pokemon created by Onigashima have stronger endurance. They will not eat Sweet Bamboo, but they will be attracted to each other. On Ghost Island, the bath water of Sweet Bamboo has always been one of the favorite things of Pokemon. The smell of Sweet Bamboo can spread far, but so far, even the newsbird has been attracted here, and no trace of Steeljaw has been seen. Is this your way of finding it? I think it should be attracted out. Under normal circumstances, it is true, but it is missing, which is obviously abnormal. Why do you think it can come out to find food by itself? Listening to Jack and Mariah's words, Yamato's movement suddenly stiffened, and she seemed to have forgotten something. Do you think there is a possibility that it was just delayed by an accident? Yamato seemed to want to find a reason to cover up the mistake, but Jack and Mariah's suspicious eyes were already locked on him, and the brothers around him automatically chose to ignore it. Jack and Mariah can joke, but they are not interested in such things. But sometimes, luck comes so suddenly, or to put it another way, it is a fool's luck. Suddenly there was a sound of birds singing in the sky, and Steeljaw really appeared. Look, what did I say? Jack and Mariah were speechless. Even if Jack thought it was just a coincidence, when the coincidence really happened, it could only mean that the other party's plan was successful. Hey, here, where have you been these days? Yamato shouted at the Steel Crow in the sky, but the Steel Crow's reaction was very wrong. It did not land smoothly, but attacked Sweet Bamboo, as if it wanted to eat it. In a rational state, Steel Crow would not make such a mistake, but now it is in a violent state, and most of the time it is driven by wild instincts. It is already very good to remember the appearance of the flag, but its situation is very entangled, as if it is fighting against something. That is the influence of the power in the bodies of Yamato and others. Arceus's transformation ability is as conspicuous as the flag. The Pokemon he created will not make a mistake with this. It's just that most people don't have this qualification, so they use flags to represent ordinary passengers. Something's wrong, Mariah. Pull it down. Seeing that Steel Crow first tried to capture Sweet Bamboo and then struggled to fly away, Yamato also noticed the abnormality. A spider web flew out of Mariah's hand and bound Steel Crow in the sky. Seeing that it was still struggling, Yamato jumped directly onto its back and forced it to the deck. He also found the locator that did not belong to Steel Crow. I didn't feel well and slept for a while. 2 updates. I have a little fever. I should have caught a cold from taking a shower last night. I should not have been infected. Chapter 658. Indirect Effective Intelligence. The steel crow, bound by the spider web, has not given up struggling. Its wings are constantly flapping up and down, and the front feathers are entangled with the spider web. The steel crow has already evolved its outer feathers into steel during its evolution. Although it is feathers, it is as sharp as a blade. If it were an ordinary rope net, it would definitely be cut by its feathers. However, it was the spider silk made by Mariah. The more it resisted, the stronger the spider web would bind it. What's wrong with it? I don't know. I can't communicate at all. Its mind is a mess now. Just like a drunk bastard dad, its mind is full of violent factors. Yamato suppressed the steel crow with one hand while answering Mariah's questions. At the same time, she fumbled around the neck of the steel crow. She saw a strange flash just now. Soon she found the locator installed by Indigo. Due to the special structure of the steel crow's body, it was directly welded to the feathers of the steel crow. There are no pain nerves on the feathers of the steel crow, but it still made Yamato feel very uncomfortable. This bunch of bastards. Don't let me know who did it. Ship doctor. Where's the antidote made from the peach fruit? Hurry and bring it here. Yamato didn't know any medical skills. She couldn't do anything for the sick. At most, she could use the power of Evergreen to slightly relieve some of the pain. But it was precisely because of the power of Evergreen that she was an excellent Pokemon doctor. The power of Evergreen gave her the ability to heal Pokemon's injuries. While healing, she could also roughly sense what was wrong with the other party's body. When she found that Steeljaw was going crazy, she used the power of Evergreen to relieve the other party's symptoms at the same time. The power of Evergreen is omnipotent for Pokemon's injuries, but in one aspect, it is not as good as the special fruit. After realizing that Steeljaw's situation was caused by poisoning, IQ is undoubtedly a toxin for Steeljaw, and the peach fruit, which is specially used for detoxification, has become the most direct way to heal. I'll be here soon. Please wait a moment, Oni-sama. The ship doctor quickly returned to the treatment room on the mammoth and found the corresponding medicine from it. Yamato, who got the potion, forced open the mouth of the steel crow and poured the potion directly into it. As the potion entered its body, the steel crow stopped struggling fiercely. It's okay. It's okay. It's safe. You should have a good rest first, Mariah. It's okay. The peach fruit took effect quickly. It didn't take long for Yamato to sense the feedback from the steel crow again, and then signaled Mariah to clean up the spider web. The spider silk she released had extremely strong stickiness, but Mariah also had a way to deal with this kind of spider silk. If she didn't deal with it herself, it would be quite troublesome for outsiders to deal with these spider silks. Jack, look at this thing. Can you recognize who it belongs to? While comforting the steel crow, Yamato threw the disassembled locator to Jack. Mariah rarely left Onigashima, and Yamato was not interested in intelligence work, so she usually threw it to Speed and others to do. It was just that this time she and Mariah sailed on Jack's ship, and because they came out secretly, they didn't bring them with them at all. Among the people present, Jack knew the outside world best. I don't know, there is no mark on it. The characteristic of the pirate world is that they always use the pirate flag on various things to indicate their identity. This is also the best way to determine a force, through the flag. At the same time, this is also a good way to cause conflicts between other forces. Many simple-minded people will make very arbitrary decisions based on the flag they find. But it is unrealistic to want to cause a fight between major forces in this way. They are not unable to communicate. This kind of thing can easily be concluded through negotiation. Once discovered, the person pretending to be the flag will attract the joint strangulation of both sides. If a fight really breaks out, it is likely that both sides want to go to war, but just need an excuse. Even so, the person pretending to be the flag will not be let go afterwards. The flag is comparable to life for pirates. Whether it is destroyed or pretended, it is an act of declaring war. It's just that Golden Lion is different. He has completely disappeared in the past few years of development. Even Indigo did not leave the pirate flag on the locator. But at this time, Steel Armor Crow gave Yamato an answer. Do you remember where those guys are? Steelix nodded in affirmation. It had entered a frenzy state, but it was not completely amnesiac. It still had some memories of what the island looked like, and it also roughly remembered the route it took to fly away from there. After flapping its wings a few times, Steelix stood up again. IQ did not seriously damage its body. That thing was more like a stimulant, which made its body a little weak, but it did not cause any serious consequences. With the help of the power of Evergreen, it has recovered a lot. The Cayman will also hold grudges. Steelix Taxi Company has not had any accidents since it started operating, which made Steelix very resentful of what Golden Lion did. Wait, forget it, just leave it to your companions. Seeing that Steelix wanted to stand up and lead the way, Yamato stopped it and whistled towards the sky. A loud whistle resounded through the sky, and soon 2 more black shadows appeared on the horizon. They were the other steel crows she brought with her. They had been searching for the missing steel crow before, and now they were summoned and flew back. Jack, destroy that thing. Since those guys installed this thing on the steel crow, they must have a way to know its location. They will definitely be able to detect it after the thing is destroyed. Although I don't know what they want to do. If they want to track the steel crow, they will definitely come to us. We just need to wait for them to come. The steel crow's memory of the route was vague, and Yamato was not sure whether it could really find it back, so she chose this way of waiting for the opportunity. When things were related to Kaido and the battle, her nerves were also very sharp. No need, those guys seem to have come. Jack threw away the locator casually and saw a black dot in the sky gradually getting bigger, and a huge island was flying in the air, drifting towards the mammoth. The Golden Lion had been following Steelix using his ability. From the moment Yamato removed the locator, they had already sensed something was wrong. Looking at the island flying in the air, the missing Steelix let out a cry, explaining everything to the others. Very good, knock all those guys away. Doing this to Pokemon is unforgivable. Yamato jumped into the air, and as she fell, the bodies of the 2 healthy Steelix began to swell, showing a Gigantamax form. After 2 days of fever, I started to recover, but I still feel very strange. I will update twice recently, and I will update the rest after I fully recover. If you feel slow, you can take care of the book first. I can't do anything. My physical condition is like this for the time being. Take care of yourself, everyone. I don't know what will happen in a while. Note, this chapter counts as the 25th. Chapter 659. The remnants of the old times. Everyone has forgotten who you are. What should we do? What else can we do? Let's go together. Jack and Mariah looked at each other and jumped off the mammoth one after another. There is a difference between them and the previous generation of Cardas. Most of the big Cardas of the beasts now have their own flying ability, and only a few cannot fly alone. However, as the new generation of the beasts, there are still very few people who have the ability to fly. It is not difficult to stay in the air for a short distance, but if they want to fly for a long time, they still have to rely on external forces. The supergiantized steel jaws became a means of transportation. Jack and Mariah are too big, and ordinary Pokemon can't carry them. These 2 steel jaws are also the leaders of the tribe, because they show supergiantization, not ordinary dynamization. This is also a folk method to judge the strength of the tribe. Individuals who can perform supergiantization are usually stronger than dynamized individuals, and they will also gain more special abilities. Bladebird at this time, it is not only the steel jaws flying in the sky, but also the special Bladebirds following them. This is a special weapon evolved from their feathers after supergiantization. As the armor of the Super Gigantamax Steel Crow is strengthened, its wings also become extremely huge. Affected by the power of Gigantamax, the steel armor covering the wings separates from the main body and becomes a Bladebird that can fly. During the Gigantamax period, these Bladebirds will be similar to combat AI, have their own combat thinking, and assist the main body to attack the enemy. For the Gigantamax Steel Crow, they are the carrier-based aircraft of the aerospace carrier and the floating guns next to the Gundam. Each Steel Crow can control 8 Bladebirds, and a total of 16 Bladebirds form an escort formation, taking them to the floating island in the sky. Admiral, an unknown cyclone is approaching here, and it seems that something is flying over. On the sky island of Golden Lion, due to a problem with the locator before. Indigo was reporting the situation to Shiki, but before they could get close to the location where the signal was transmitted, the Golden Lion team reported a special situation through the Den Mushi. Some pirate groups had special top teams, such as the Big Mom Pirates have a top desert team. Due to his own ability, the scientific research ability of the Golden Lion is not top notch, but he has an excellent meteorological team. Since the flying pirates often appear in the sky, the weather on the sea has a greater impact on them. They must avoid those dangerous clouds to ensure the safety of their navigation. Unknown cyclone? Yes, and it's getting closer. At most 2 minutes, we will collide. Admiral, do you want to avoid it? No, that's not right. That thing suddenly turned. According to their calculations, the cyclone in front is gradually approaching the island. Although it is an outrageous thing for a cyclone to appear in the sea, it is not incomprehensible in the Grand Line. It's just that just now, the cyclone turned its direction and rushed to a higher position. That is not a naturally rising cyclone, but the updraft generated by the Gigantamax of Steel Crow. Steel Crow uses its huge wings to catch the updraft generated by the Gigantamax energy, so that its more bulky body can fly freely in the sky. Birds have well-developed muscles, and Steel Crow is even more so under the influence of the Gigantamax power. As long as they flap their wings, they can create strong winds that are no less than hurricanes. Admiral, we, meet the enemy. Have you forgotten who I am in the past 10 years? I am Golden Lion. As he said this, Golden Lion walked out of the door step by step, but he was only handsome for 3 seconds. Just as he arrived at the door and looked at the reflection on the glass, he suddenly shouted in surprise, "Why is there a chicken here?" The person he called a chicken was himself. Since the rudder was inserted into his head, his brain circuit has become abnormal, and he often makes similar remarks. The surprised expression is more like a comedian. It is impossible to tell that this is one of the overlords of the sea more than 10 years ago. Isn't that you, idiot? Indigo slapped him on the head without hesitation. He looked very skilled. Golden Lion did not get angry because of this. Instead, he continued to walk out calmly. Outside, the steel-armored crows were ready to land. In just a few minutes, they had rushed to the designated location. The outer beast defense line had no effect on them. Those frenzied beasts could not threaten the steel-armored crows in the sky at all. These bastards. This thing must be destroyed. If it is allowed to spread, the Pokemon in the sea will be in trouble. We have to get rid of the people behind the scenes. But this island is different from the Sky Island. Even though Mariah rarely left Wano Country, she had seen the small Sky Island hanging on the periphery of Wano Country. Knowing that the foundation of the Sky Island is the island cloud, she was a little surprised that an island with a soil and stone structure like this could actually fly in the air. Let's find the person first. It should be in that palace, right? Steel Crow, come and say hello. Patting the head of Steel Crow under him, Yamato pointed to the palace built by the Golden Lion. If he didn't know which one to attack, he would pick the biggest one to attack. This is a very common logic on the sea. Even if the strategic value is not high, knocking down a big guy will make the other party feel distressed for a long time. Steel Crow was brewing his attack, but at this time, a lion made of water suddenly rushed towards them from both sides. That was the river water that was originally suspended around the island. Due to the ability of the Golden Lion's floating fruit, a large amount of water flow gathered around the island and was transformed into a weapon belonging to the Golden Lion at this time. Lion's power, heaven, water and earth scroll. No attendant ice fang. Frost spit out from Yamato's mouth and instantly froze the lion created by the Golden Lion. However, after turning into an ice lion, the Golden Lion's attack did not stop. He is the user of the floating fruit. All inanimate objects touched by him are under his control. The specific upper limit is still a mystery. But even if Yamato freezes the water into ice, it is still controlled by the Golden Lion. Yamato's freezing makes it more powerful. Finally, after they used brute force to break the ice lion, the Golden Lion's attack came to an end. It was easier for him to reorganize the broken ice fragments than to prepare a new attack. Interesting kid, who gave you the courage to come to the territory of Master Golden Lion? Looking at the blonde old man floating in front of them, Jack, Yamato and others fell silent for a while. Just as Golden Lion was immersed in this feeling of long absence, the words that came into his ears made him explode. Jack, who is Golden Lion? I can't remember. I seem to have heard of him a long time ago. Maybe he is a loser? After disappearing for 14 years, and with Golden Lion deliberately hiding his whereabouts, he successfully achieved his goal, and the effect was a little too good, so much so that he himself could not accept it. Chapter 660 I'm a Golden Lion. The gossips reached the ears of the Golden Lion, and the Golden Lion seemed to be petrified, maintaining the original posture without moving, not because of anything else, but mainly because of a little embarrassment. According to his original idea, after the other party heard his name, whether it was shock or fear, or even looked down on him, he could make a corresponding statement. He never thought that these young people would give him such an answer. His current identity is very special, and the bounty on him in the outside world is even zero. This is because, after he was thrown into prison by Garp and Sengoku, the bounty on him was temporarily cleared. Although the Golden Lion successfully escaped from prison, the world government did not intend to publicize this matter. This was not an achievement for them, but a shame. In addition, the reality that the Golden Lion disappeared after escaping from prison, they did not reissue the bounty. If a remnant of the old era could live in peace and contentment in retirement, it was the situation they most hoped for. Rayleigh lived very steadily in Shampoo Land for this reason. Even if this was the Golden Lion's own idea, he did not expect to be forgotten so thoroughly. Ahem, young people nowadays are no good. They know nothing about the old seniors. Well, let me tell you how gentle the times are now compared to those days. No, I just can't remember who Golden Lion is. Hey, uncle, were you famous back then? Golden Lion finally found a way out, but before he could take 2 steps, he was torn down by Yamato again. No, I think you don't know much about the past. Nonsense. I'm a good student in history. Roger, Whitebird, Red Earl, Bondi Wald, Wang Zhi, John, aren't they all great pirates of the old times? Golden Lion rubbed his chest. He felt a little out of breath. The previous ones are fine. The Pirate King, the strongest man in the world, is also the top in the pirate circle. He can also understand the lone traveler Red Earl and the madman Wald, but Wang Zhi and John, they were pirates on the same ship back then. After Rox was disbanded, his reputation was much greater than those 2 guys, but the other party couldn't remember him. This is actually a temporary loss of memory, which is very similar to reciting ancient poems. You can memorize the whole poem, but you only forget what the blank sentence is. This is the case for Yamato and Jack. The 2 sides are strictly enemies, and this way of talking is not appropriate now. But since the rudder of the ship was inserted into the brain of the Golden Lion, his brain circuit has become more and more strange. If he doesn't make this problem clear, he will never sleep in this life. Listen to me. I'm a legendary pirate. Captain of the Sky Pirates, Admiral of the Golden Lion Pirate Fleet, Roger's nemesis. Golden Lion Shiki. You have even heard of Wang Zhi and John, but you don't know my name? The Carters on Rock's ship were not convinced by each other. Golden Lion recognized Whitebeard's strength, and Roger was his nemesis. It would be strange if no one knew them, but he couldn't accept the latter. It's just that he and Yamato are now 2 parallel lines, without any common language, or in other words, the focus that Yamato grasped was completely different from what he thought. Roger's nemesis. Isn't his nemesis Garp in the Navy? Point, that's the man I recognize. His biggest enemy in this life is me. If that bastard hadn't been lucky, how could he have become the Pirate King? Garp, what the hell is he? You little brat, do you know what you are talking about? Well, it doesn't matter. No matter how famous you were before, I will completely defeat you today. The momentum that Golden Lion had just built up was suppressed again. He didn't like the other party's unconventional way of speaking, so much so that he was a little suspicious. Is it because he has been closed for too long that the sea is now like this? Ha 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 ha. Young people nowadays are not only ignorant, but also stupid. Did you 3 little brats break into my territory just because of that bird? Sometimes he looks like an old madman, but he is not really crazy. After the Steel Armor Crow Super Gigantamax, he can still see the original appearance. In addition, the locator that had problems before, he can use the rudder on his head to think about what happened. The two big birds looked more powerful and more in line with the image of war weapons in his mind. You, who don't understand Pokemon, are not worthy of mentioning them. I will repay you for the suffering you brought to Steelix today. It was just a strange debate, but in the blink of an eye, it became tense. Yamato took a deep breath, and the AGN 7.0 made by the giant forgers appeared in her hand, covered with armed color, and the wolf fang made of Arceus steel flashed with cold light. White fur began to spread on the body, gradually wrapping the whole body, the magic version of the big mouth true god, full firepower state. She still couldn't remember who this golden-haired uncle was, but the water lion, before let her know that this was not an easy opponent. Beasts are just tools. You will pay the price for taking such things so seriously sooner or later. Since the sea has forgotten me, I will let you remember my terror again. I'm the Golden Lion, Shiki. As the Golden Lion clenched his hands, the ground of the island rolled up like waves, and the soil and rocks gathered in the sky, turning into a huge rock lion. Lion's power, earth roll, boom. The earth shook, and the sound produced by the movement of soil and rocks was like the roar of a lion. The huge lion's mouth bit towards Yamato. This island was suspended in the air because of his ability, and all inanimate objects on the island were under his control. Thunder Bagua. Facing the attacking Lion Mountain, the domineering aura on our giant turned into a new power. With a swing of the stick, a huge hole appeared on Lion Mountain, and the hard rocks turned into powder. However, this attack was not very meaningful. The Golden Lion just clenched his hands again, and the shattered part was completed again. Like the previous water lion, facing the floating fruit, it was meaningless to just smash it. Even if it turns into powder, it is still essentially an inorganic substance under the influence of the Golden Lion's ability. Unless it disappears out of thin air, no matter how you attack it, it will be useless. But taking advantage of this opportunity, Yamato has already passed through Lion Mountain. Jack and Mariah also took off again with the help of Steel Llama Crow, and avoided the first wave of attacks from the Golden Lion. Their targets are all locked on the Golden Lion. They will not leave the ability user alone, but go to fight the thing he controls. I haven't recovered yet, and my family has a fever again. Damn it, I don't know when it will be updated stably. Let's wait until we get through this first round. Everyone protect yourselves. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 661, Taunting. Facing Yamato's attack, Golden Lion showed a quicker reaction. His body swayed in the sky, and Yamato's attack passed by him. The wind from the mace slightly blew his sleeves, but there was no other effect. Haki. It's been a long time since I last saw it. Since escaping from the undersea prison, he hasn't seen an opponent who can use Haki skillfully for many years. Hiding in the sky, he rarely encounters enemies. At most, when he replenishes his manpower, he will take away some pirate groups or islands. Those people are all ordinary people. The strongest one is a gorilla found in the East China Sea, and that move always makes him feel familiar. Thunder Bagua. What is the relationship between Kaido and you? Hawk's move has no name, and his enemies don't know whether it is a normal attack or a big move. Kaido is different. Although he has many moves, the attacks related to the mace are all derived from the Thunder Bagua. Yamato's moves are learned from Kaido, and there is a strong flavor of inheritance in it. In the eyes of the Golden Lion, Kaido is still a brat, but he is also a brat that he remembers vividly. There are not many people who can be recruited by rocks to board the ship. The double horns on the head do not mean anything. There are many individuals with horns on their heads in this sea, but it is different with the iconic moves. But Yamato did not answer his meaning. She swung the stick again after one swing was in vain. This has become her fighting instinct. It's as annoying as that brat back then. Let you, an ignorant brat, feel the horror of the past. Yamato's attack missed again. If the Golden Lion is not stubborn, most people will find it difficult to keep him. The ability to fly has always been rare. Although the skills of performing moon steps in the air with a strong physique can move quickly, it is still fundamentally different from flying. The floating fruit allows the golden lion to fly freely, which is his advantage. Yamato can't fly now, but she has external force. The blade bird of steel armor crow has cut through the air at this time, slashing at the golden lion with a sharp sound of breaking through the air. Lion's power Chikiriya. His legs slashed out several golden slashes, forming a net-like defense. The flying blade birds were chopped down to the ground one after another. The blade birds that were broken into 2 pieces had lost the ability to continue fighting independently. The remaining slashes still flew towards the main body of the steel crow, but before the attack hit, they lifted their supergiant state and returned to their normal size. The initial flying mission has ended. If it is just to take Yamato with him, the normal size is enough. These birds are really interesting. It seems that you have more research in this area. The changes in the steel crow aroused the interest of the golden lion. He thought that the steel crows he caught before were juveniles, and these supergiant steel crows were adults. But as they lifted the supergiant state, he found that it was not as simple as he thought. Those flying feathers were chopped off by him, but he was the golden lion. Even if he lost his legs, he was still one of the greatest swordsmen in the world. The sword energy swung with his legs might lose some heart, but the power was even stronger. It was only cut in half by his chopping wave. Those iron feathers must be more deadly to others. If such a group of strange birds is strengthened with IQ, it will be an invincible sky army. Chopping wave. Thinking so, the golden lion kicked out another single chopping wave. The huge golden sword energy slashed directly towards the island, but Yamato did not dodge at all, because she sensed that this sword energy could not touch her at all. In fact, it was just like this. Deep gullies were left on the ground of the island. Rather than attacking, the golden lion was more like giving a warning. Kid, you can control these strange birds, right? I'll give you a chance to join me. As long as you bring these strange birds to join me, I won't mind your intrusion into my territory. When I rule the world, you'll be not interested. I'm not interested in ruling the world, and Steel Crow is not a tool for you to control. I just want to knock you away now. Your companions have already escaped. No, they just have other tasks to do. Below the battlefield, Jack and Mariah were heading in other directions. That was their mission, to destroy the facilities here. This was a tactic they discussed temporarily while flying. The golden lion might not be easy to deal with, but for them, demolishing the tower was the ultimate goal. It was not difficult for the golden lion to stop them, but Yamato's next words made him give up the idea of doing so. I remember who Golden Lion is. Golden Lion let out a long sigh and rubbed his head. He always felt that Yamato was challenging his tolerance limit. If the other party still didn't recognize him after such a long self-introduction, he would be really angry. You are the unlucky loser under Roger. If it weren't for that tsunami, the result of the Battle of Edwall would still be unknown. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he was unlucky, but this sentence seemed to touch the bottom line of Golden Lion. Kid, it's better for you to die here. Lion's Power Earth Scroll. The earth turned over and transformed into 2 giant lion heads again, biting towards Yamato's position. As for Mariah and Jack, he didn't care. He was not the only one on this sky island. He also had his own subordinates. Jack, can Yamato do it? If she can't do it, we will have no choice. This is an air battle. You and I can't help much. Let's go and destroy that research institute first. This is a fragmentary fragment obtained from the lost steel armored crow, and it is also their mission. The battlefield behind them was swelling with dirt and rocks, but it had little to do with them. Jack gradually changed his body shape while running, turning into the posture of the king bronze elephant. He was not good at saving people, but destruction was his specialty. Chemical magic ball. Indigo's voice sounded beside him. As a scientist of the flying pirates, he was not particularly good at fighting, but he was not a weak chicken who was powerless. In this day and age, scientific research always has some special fighting methods. And the stronger the scientist, the more fighting methods he has, such as those monsters like Mads. He clapped his hands, and then a ball of green flames appeared inexplicably. Like magic, a large number of balls rotated above his head and fell into his other hand. This was something he made using chemical agents, and it also contained IQ components. Go. Indigo pushed with one hand, and those chemical fireballs flew towards Jack and Mariah. Chapter 662 You lost your dominance. Mariah, get out of the way. Jack glanced at the flying green fireball. A flash of black light flashed across his body, and then he rushed towards the chemical fireball. His weakness to fire also has a limit, and he is still fearless of this level of fire. Indigo's chemical fireball essentially relies on chemical agents to cause damage, and fire is just an accessory. Such fire is just a tickle to him. As for chemical toxins, metals will not be poisoned by them. Whoosh! Jack's trunk swung forward, and the huge trunk slapped the chemical element ball in front of him to the ground. After the chemical ball exploded, thick smoke came out and wrapped Jack's body. However, according to the famous law of smoke without injury, Jack was unharmed under the smoke, but he coughed twice because of being choked. Indigo wanted to continue attacking, but Jack was no longer interested in being beaten. He found that he had overestimated the Carters here. Don't use the tricks of children playing house to make fun of them. The charging king bronze elephant had already arrived in front of Indigo, raised its forelimbs, and stepped on Indigo. Boom. The dirt and rocks flew everywhere, and Jack stepped on nothing. Indigo himself had no ability to dodge Jack's attack, but a gorilla helped him a lot. AWW, AWW, AWW. In front of Jack, a huge gorilla appeared, wearing a red suit, and groaned. Gorilla. Looking at this large gorilla, Jack's movements did not stop. Whether it was a gorilla or a human, as long as they dared to stand in front of him, they would be the same. The metal trunk smashed towards the other party, but Jack actually felt some resistance. For him, the gorilla's strength was much stronger than Indigo. But the result did not change. The gorilla was still pulled out by Jack's nose, and it knocked down a series of trees before stopping. Skirito, are you done? Indigo looked at the gorilla in front of him and asked it. Skirito was the name of the gorilla. Since discovering this island, Golden Lion asked Indigo to carry out similar experiments. Their experimental subjects were mainly various animals. Before discovering the steel-armored raven, they generally looked for animals from the Grand Line and other seas for experiments. In the vast ocean, there are many rare beast islands where magical creatures live. The animals on those rare beast islands are their targets. Skirito is an exception. He is the beast king of a rare beast island in the East China Sea. He is powerful and has intelligence that is not lower than that of humans. He gets along well with the silly Golden Lion and becomes his subordinate. Ouch. Skirito patted his chest. Compared with a convulsing Golden Lion, Indigo is also abnormal, but he is more in line with the times. After the Golden Lion was dragged down by Yamato's ridicule, he asked Skirito to lead people to destroy the outer IQ defense wall and lure those monsters in. Due to the battle between Golden Lion and Yamato, the ground has been shaking continuously, so Jack and Mariah did not notice those strange and violent creatures until those monsters ran to their side. I'll deal with those beasts, and you go to deal with that man and the gorilla. Is that okay? Jack roughly assigned their respective opponents. In his opinion, those beasts were obviously more difficult to deal with than Indigo. No, I'll deal with those beasts. That gorilla makes me feel a little disgusted. Jack assigned his opponents based on his strength, but Mariah chose her opponents based on her personal preferences. Just like when she thought the Spider-Man form was too ugly, the current Skirito made her feel physically uncomfortable. The gorilla's eyes were flashing with love, and he was even blushing. Abu. This gorilla has a lustful attribute, and has a special feeling for human women, not to mention Mariah, who is similar in size to him. It's up to you, but be careful, those beasts seem to be in a state of rage. Don't worry, those brainless beasts are just prey in the spider web. Crossing her fingers, when Mariah's hands separated again, her fingers were already covered with spider webs filled with electricity. Looking at those brainless beasts charging, Mariah sprinkled a ball of spider silk. As the electric net extended and fell in the sky, the hunting ground of the electric spider was built. Indigo's experiment was not very successful, and during the transformation process, they often used electric current to drive away the beasts, which caused them to have a fear of electric current. Under the electric grid released by Mariah, most of them seemed vulnerable. The same was true in Skirito. In the human beast form, Jack's fist slammed into the gorilla mercilessly. Compared with those ordinary beasts, it was indeed very powerful, but compared with Jack, it was far inferior. The Golden Lion forgot one thing. The current flying pirates are no longer the same as they used to be. He has lost those powerful cadres. With him being dragged down, the flying pirates have no face at all. Chop. Thunderbagua. The slash collided with the mace, and the shockwave overturned the surrounding streams. The Golden Lion controlled the stream water to form two huge lions and bite towards Yamato. Mashibingaya. Lion's might. Goshajijin. Mashibingaya froze the stream, but the crushed ice slag formed a new lion head again. This scene has happened several times, and even the Golden Lion began to envy Yamato's abundant physical strength. The physical strength of the animal type is really willful, but how long can you last? With a wave of his hand, the earth mountain condensed into a huge lion again, and the fangs made of rocks bit at Yamato. At least, longer than you, old guy, can last. A big hole was pierced in the lion mountain. Using the air as a pedal, Yamato's speed exceeded the speed of the lion mountain's pursuit, and the mace in his hand aimed at the rudder on the Golden Lion's head. Although she dodged it again, she also found a problem. The Golden Lion's slash was sharp and his body reacted quickly, but it was more of a muscle reaction. In addition to slashing, he mainly relied on the floating fruit to control a large number of inanimate objects to attack. As for defense, he either blocked with earth and rocks, or used slashing to offset, or used flying ability to dodge. Golden Lion never used armament haki to resist. Obviously, as long as he blocked the attack, he could launch a more effective attack. She didn't believe that this overlord of the old era had no combat experience. I say, you didn't forget how to use haki? Golden Lion didn't say anything, but turned into a black-faced lion. Yamato's words hit him in the heart again. Probably since the prison break, he found that there were some problems with his body. From then on, the haki that was originally at his fingertips became unstable. Chapter 663, Family Heirloom. For Golden Lion, there are many setbacks in life. The title of loser is nothing to him, because he just lost. Even if there is luck, the result of the Battle of Edwall cannot be reversed. But for a former great pirate, the loss of strength is something he cannot accept. The trauma and the decline of his state of mind gradually made his domineering disappear, and he has become a state where he can only rely on swordsmanship and fruit power. The ability users who eat devil fruits almost represent the inner wishes of a group in the past, and various abilities collide on the sea. The extent to which the fruit power is used is also closely related to the ability user. In this regard, Golden Lion is also a top person. Relying on the power of the fruit, he can cause his own natural disasters, but this cannot change the fact that he can no longer use the domineering power of the past. You kid, talking is really infuriating. A large amount of water floated in the surrounding streams, and the soil and rocks that made up the island also split and reorganized under the influence of the floating fruit, gathering into a huge lion mountain. The top of the mountain condensed into a lion head full of madness, showing its fangs to Yamato. Even if he couldn't use his domineering power now, the slashing wave he swung was enough to split the mountains and the sea. With the help of his ability, the entire island began to appear fragmented. The Steel Crows had already left the battlefield. They were taking refuge to avoid being caught up in this natural disaster. On the other side, with a loud bang, the buildings in the center of the island began to collapse. Jack, who had turned into a giant beast, was destroying the buildings like a monster. If the Golden Lion saw it, he would definitely stop it, but Yamato's taunting was too good, and all his hatred was concentrated on Yamato. A large number of beasts were captured by Mariah's electric net, and Scarido and Indigo couldn't stop Jack, which naturally led to such a result. While the Golden Lion and Yamato were still fighting, they had already completed their destruction goals. When they looked in the direction of Yamato, they saw giant lions and slashing waves of various shapes flying in the sky, and the extremely cold air occasionally spewed out, turning this place into a winter island. After the splashing water was frozen, it turned into drifting snow and fell again near the battlefield. Is Yamato injured? It's just a skin wound left by the slash. After all, he is a great pirate. Apart from Brother Kaido, I haven't seen anyone who can hurt Yamato for a long time. There was a blood mark on the white arm. Although it was far away, it was still very conspicuous to Jack and Mariah. Yamato's physique has long reached the level of monster. Even without using skills, she can withstand many attacks with her skin alone, not to mention that she is now in full strength combat mode. You can doubt her usual brain, but you can't question her fighting nerves. There are fewer and fewer people who can completely break her defense. There are not a few people who can do this within the beasts, but only Kaido can be so ruthless. Great Pirate, Golden Lion, the captain of the Flying Pirates, and brother Kaido. No, a monster from the same era as Whitebird. Of course I remember. Looking at Mariah's slightly suspicious eyes, Jack gave his own explanation, which was completely different from when Yamato asked him. Mariah really didn't remember who Golden Lion was, and Jack was just trying to better respond to Yamato and annoy Golden Lion on the way. Is Yamato okay? Mariah didn't mean to intervene. It wasn't that she didn't want to help, but she knew very well that it would be useless to go through with this level of battle. In the absence of a clear 1v1 duel, they didn't mind a group fight, but a group fight also depends on the level. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. Even if a monster like Golden Lion is in its trough, they can't intervene casually. Rashly intervening in the battle will only cause chaos and cause trouble for Yamato. Waiting is the best result. Neither you nor I are good at flexible air combat. Trust her. If she can't solve it, all we can do is ask for help. To be precise, Yamato is not very good at air combat, but he is much better than the two of them. Then it's too late, right? It's strange. I sent a message for help to Onigashima before, but there has been no reply. It must have been delayed by something. The two of them sat on the ruins and observed the battle in the distance very calmly, but they didn't notice that Kaido, who had turned into a dragon, had stayed in the clouds for a long time in the higher clouds. With Kaido nearby, Onigashima would naturally not respond to the call for help. However, Kaido was not very satisfied with the battle below. He was not dissatisfied with Yamato, but with the Golden Lion. Shiki, you are already old. The sun rose in the east and set in the west. Unknowingly, 3 rounds had passed, and the balance of the battle had been fluctuating. On the first day, the Golden Lion was full of anger, and his every move was a natural disaster. The powerful slash left several bottomless abysses on the island, but Yamato was like an indestructible cockroach, and he could always get out again from the gaps in his attacks. On the second day, Golden Lion's attacks continued to become more efficient and concise, because he found that, if he continued to consume energy like that, he would definitely be the first to be exhausted. The total physical strength of the two was not much different, but there was a huge gap in their recovery ability. The wounds that ordinary people would take days to heal were just a matter of minutes for Yamato. The wounds left by Kyuki and Sakura were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. On the third day, Golden Lion began to feel tired, but the opponent was still as good as a person. The last time a similar situation happened was when he fought against Garp and Sengoku at the same time. It was not that Yamato was so strong now, but Golden Lion was no longer as strong as he was back then. As the battle continued, there was a pain at the connection between the rudder and the head. Thunder Bagua. Yamato didn't know why Golden Lion's movement suddenly stopped. She didn't mean to respect the old and love the young. Taking advantage of the opponent's hesitation, Ken 7.0 hit Golden Lion's head directly. Kid, are you doing all this just because of that bird? You have such power, but you are fighting for that crow? In the dust, the Golden Lion leaned on the gravel. It was not easy for him to take the blow, but he couldn't figure out why the other party fought so hard. Yamato was not unscathed in the past 3 days. His double swords hit the vital points several times. If it weren't for Yamato's monster-like physique, she would have been defeated long ago. People like you won't understand. People like you who ignore life will always be losers. Ice slash. Yamato jumped high, and the mace wrapped in domineering and freezing air smashdown, but this time, the mace did not hit the Golden Lion. Dead Tree and Sakura 10 were floating in the air with blood dripping from their swords. The blades were as black as ink. The thick domineering appeared on the swords again after more than 10 years, and blocked Yamato's attack out of thin air. That was an advanced use of armament haki, blocking the enemy from a distance. Little boy, the second round has just begun. The Golden Lion's hair and beard were flying, and he was even more arrogant than before. There was also a long lost momentum in his eyes. That stick was considered to have completely awakened him. Chapter 664 Ideal Thunder and Lightning. The Yamato just now made Golden Lion feel familiar. He had invited Roger several times, but Roger never accepted his invitation. Winners take losers. The history of mankind is a history of war. Everything that can be used will eventually become a weapon. Do you raise those strange birds just to transport goods? Golden Lion held the hilts of the two swords with both hands. With a shake of his hands, all the blood attached to them was shaken off. Blood kept dripping from the broken leg. Over the years, the two swords have become part of his legs. What he did was almost the same as when he cut off his legs. However, as the muscles of his legs moved, the wounds no longer bled, and his sword edge also had a hint of domineering. They are partners who can be relied on the battlefield, not the ruthless tools you said. Ha ha ha. It's been a long time since I felt this way. You and that naive Roger are really a bit alike, but no matter how nice you say it, it can't change the fact that those strange birds are also your tools, but you are better to them. Other than that, you and I are the same kind of people. There is no difference at all. Kumu and Yingju were played with a few sword flowers by him. No one knew whether it was this power that he had missed for a long time, or other feelings. I'm not the same kind of person as a bastard like you. You will never understand the feelings between Pokemon and humans. It is because of you. There are a lot of people who only see them as tools. That's why I want to destroy this place. I will beat all guys like you away. The change of the Golden Lion did not scare Yamato, but he swung the mace at him. The double swords in the Golden Lion's hand drew across, and the power far exceeded the previous slashing wave, which directly forced Yamato back. Shiki laughed again. What I hate most is you naive kids. You also want to use force to fulfill your ideas. Without this strength, your naive ideas are a joke. But kid, as a reward for helping me remember something, I will give you a chance to gamble. Shiki did not continue to attack. His two swords were suspended in the sky, and his hands gradually touched the back of his head. This rudder has been embedded in my head for a long time. My doctor said that, if I remove it rashly, I will probably die. But today I want to take a gamble. Guess what will happen after I pull it out? He grabbed the rudder on his head fiercely, and then with a puff, the rudder was pulled out of his head with a splash of blood. Boom. Boom. Several lightning flashed in the sky, and the clouds suddenly began to gather. Even Kaido, who was very bored on the clouds, cheered up. The powerful momentum gushed out from the Golden Lion to the surroundings. At this time, the clouds in the sky turned into a ferocious giant lion. What did that guy do? Mariah's steps retreated one after another, and the beasts caught in her spider web became turtles. This sudden momentum was beyond her expectation. Jack's feet left two deep footprints on the ground, and his expression when looking at the battlefield had changed. The Golden Lion floated in the air motionless as if dead, but the island still floating in the air said it all. After the ability user is comatose or dead, most of the abilities will be invalid. There are only a few cases like the sweet fruit. Even if the current ability user is killed, the petrification will not be lifted, and even the next ability user will have no way to deal with it. The floating fruit does not belong to this category. If the Golden Lion has an accident, the island will not be able to continue floating in the air. Ha 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 ha. Kid, your luck is not good. It seems that I won the bet. Blood flowed down from the top of his head and soon wet most of his shoulders, but the Golden Lion is now in great shape. It is the first time in more than 10 years that he has regained his power. After many years, Golden Lion used the most violent means to overcome this life and death barrier. He chose conservative treatment that year, leaving the rudder stuck in his head, but today, that blow made him suddenly understand something. Rather than continuing to be unknown and forgotten by the world, it is better to try again. The chance is slim, but he won the bet. Now he is still a long way from his heyday, but when he recovers from the scars on his body, he can announce to the world that the Golden Lion of the Year is back. This is your misfortune, but also your luck, kid. I reluctantly admit that you are a qualified opponent, so I will let you see the power of the legendary pirate. Lion's Might Skyfall. The clouds in the sky were compressed and condensed under the influence of the power of the Golden Lion, and the clouds eventually turned into a huge water lion, swinging its huge claws downwards. Mahu and Blade. The water flow froze under the influence of the power of the great mouth true god, and then Yamato broke through the ice. The Golden Lion at this time was a world apart from the Golden Lion a few days ago, but she was not afraid at all. Lion Chikorita. Go all out, Kit, or you won't even have a chance to resist. The power of each slash was several times that of the previous one. The fruit ability and sword skills were completely integrated together, and the attack and defense were also domineering. Facing such a Golden Lion, she actually felt a similar sense of powerlessness as when facing Kaido. Time was slowly passing, and the balance of victory had completely tilted towards the Golden Lion. Another sword energy passed, and a deep wound that could be seen on Yamato's shoulder appeared. The giant lion made of rocks also slapped her, leaving a huge deep pit on the ground. Kid, don't say I didn't give you a chance. If you admit defeat now, I can still give you a chance. After all, you seem to be able to command those strange birds better. You're dreaming. People like you will not be recognized by Pokemon. TSK, I knew it. Then you will disappear from this world with your innocence. Yamato's answer seemed to be what he expected. It was impossible for such a person to surrender to him. The ferocious water lion condensed again and pounced into the deep pit. Thunder. Bagua. Her left arm was badly injured and she couldn't use her strength for the time being, but even though she only had one hand left, she didn't sit still and wait for death. The Golden Lion didn't look back. In his opinion, Yamato in that state couldn't take that move at all, but Kaido in the sky returned to the clouds, and he sensed that familiar power. In the deep pit, the lion condensed by the water flow had disappeared, leaving only a large amount of steam. The Golden Lion, who noticed the abnormality, looked back and saw only the lightning that shot up into the sky and Yamato wrapped in black in the lightning. Girl, just this once, I'll lend you my power. Chapter 665 Frozen Vault. Zekrom, have you decided? Not long ago, Zekrom's body moved in the space of the twin dragons. Everything in the outside world seemed extremely slow in their rise. The attack of the Golden Lion was also like slow motion in their sight. They even had time to chat for a few words, but judging from the movements, Reshiram had no intention of moving at all. At this level, Yamato could not die, and it was far from the truth. He had no reason to take action. Ideals and reality are not absolutely contradictory. Although Reshiram and Zekrom have major differences in their ideas, they were once one and the same. They can understand what the other pursues. If this is Zekrom's final choice, Reshiram will be disappointed. Pursuing ideals is a kind of awakening. Facing a strong enemy without retreating is a good start. If you can take this step, then there is no problem in lending her power first. Besides, you also feel her desire to protect Pokemon, right? Zekrom's figure gradually disappeared in this space, and Reshiram also lost interest in the outside world. Zekrom's power was enough in this situation. Yamato in the outside world still hadn't figured out what happened. Looking at the disappearing water lion, her movements were a little stiff. Am I so strong now? The air around became very dry, and the water seemed to have disappeared out of thin air. Only the Golden Lion with a strange expression was proving to the world that it was real. Don't stand there stupidly. The enemy is still in front of you. Let him know the power of ideals. A strange yet familiar voice appeared in Yamato's heart. Since the transformation of Arceus was completed, she has not received any feedback for so many years. Zekrom, it's me. We have always been here. Now prove that you didn't make me see it wrong. A black shadow flashed behind Yamato. The hole was made of black and grey, and it looked like a huge black dragon standing on 2 feet. There was a lightning-shaped grey horn crown on the top of its head. A pair of fan-shaped wings spread out behind it, and below it were powerful arm claws, with sharp 3-finger claws hidden on the inside. Behind her was a huge conical tail with spikes, and powerful lightning was flowing inside. The shadow was fleeting, and then merged into Yamato's body, merging with her transformed body. The pure white fur was gradually covered by black dragon scales, and the head was also protected in the dragon-shaped helmet. The extra dragon wings on the back also filled the gap in flying ability. Zekrom's power was integrated into every cell, and eventually gave birth to the current Dark Big Mouth God. As a substitute for Kyurem, the difference between Big Mouth God and Kyurem is only the name and appearance. The abilities are similar, or even more diverse. As the body of the 3 dragons of Tao, the ability after fusion is only the tip of the iceberg. The violent lightning was stirring everywhere, and the power was filled in Yamato's body. Kyurem originally had a stronger power than Zekrom and Leshiram, but that power was too strong. If used casually, it would only lead to the collapse of the body, so Kyurem's own frost sealed his energy. The power of a divine beast requires a will that matches it. For example, a person who thinks about flying, and the sea will not be recognized by ground. This is also the reason why Kyurem was not born directly. Even if it is just a body, Kyurem has his own violent will, so the modified version of the Great Mouth True God was derived. Now the Great Mouth True God, who has merged the power of the Black Dragon, has truly revealed his power. Shiki. The second round starts now. Boom. As Yamato's voice fell, 2 thunderbolts fell from the clouds, aiming directly at the Golden Lion. Lion's Might Earth Scroll. Looking at the lightning falling from the sky, the soil under the feet of the Golden Lion rolled up and greeted the thunder in the sky. The heavy soil and rocks blocked the lightning strike, but there was no charred mark left on it, but frost flashing with electric current. The lightning released by Yamato showed a completely different posture from the lightning in nature. It was the extremely cold thunder that belonged to her. Animal type brat. You have so many tricks. But I'm Golden Lion. Golden Lion had seen all kinds of people with special abilities in his life, but this was the first time he had encountered a mythical beast that switched attributes halfway. Even if it was an awakening, he had never seen such a big change in awakening, but no matter what happened, he didn't hesitate. He had already found what he had lost. After pulling out the rudder, Lion Chikiriya. Crossing lightning. The lightning brewing in the clouds was absorbed by the dragon wings behind Yamato. After compression and reorganization at the tail, the 2 thunders turned into a barrier to disperse Golden Lion's slash. At the same time, a strange blue light began to flash on her body. The color of the electric current gradually changed to blue-white, and the electric engine behind her also entered a high-speed rotation state. This was the power brought to her by Zekrom, the overclocking drive mode. In this state, she will burst out with the strongest combat power. Amid the roar of thunder and lightning, Yamato appeared in front of Golden Lion again. The armor covered her, so that Golden Lion could not see her expression, but he could see the determination in her eyes. Frost began to spread from Yamato's hands, gradually wrapping the entire mace. The violent volt current also wrapped around Giant, and together with the ice crystals, it formed a dragon claw-shaped spike. Ice Thunder Bagua. Wrapped around the mace was nothing else but Frozen Volt, a powerful move that was born after the fusion of Zekrom and Kyurem's power. At this time, the power of Frozen Volt had been integrated into her Thunder Bagua, and the power of this attack far exceeded any previous battle. The electric engine behind him constantly generated new currents, and along the veins on the surface of the body, it was transmitted into his arms. Come on, this is reasonable. Only in this way can you be naive. Looking at the huge blow, the Golden Lion smiled with joy. He hated naive idiots, but when this person had the capital to be naive, it was different. Lion's Might. Final slash. The 2 swords intertwined like the fangs of a lion, facing the mace swung by Yamato head-on. The surrounding floating islands began to shake on a large scale and gradually fell to the sea surface, because the Golden Lion finally faced the opponent in front of him. He began to gather his energy, and gave up maintaining the ability of the outer islands, and put all his energy into the battle in front of him. Swords were flying, lightning was slashing, and most of the environment on the island was frozen. The scars on the bodies of both sides were also increasing. Chapter 666. The real danger always comes from behind. The balance of victory turned again. When the battle entered a stalemate, the time for the animal system came. For a powerful animal system ability user, if he does not have the ability to severely injure the opponent with one blow, he will fall into an innate disadvantage. It is impossible for an opponent of the same realm to compete with the animal system in physical strength. Yamato only borrowed the power of Zekrom. Before he really recognized her, she could not reach the strength of the Golden Lion in his prime, but the current Golden Lion was only a half-crippled Golden Lion. Even if he pulled out the rudder on his head, the influence of more than 10 years remained in his body. With his broken legs, he was still a long way from his peak. After rounding, the 2 were at the same level. As time went on, the sophistication of the battle gradually decreased. The battle between the two gradually turned into a fight between wild beasts, and the Golden Lion became a bloody man. If it were not for the ability to control the body similar to the return of life, the wound on his head would be enough to kill him. During the battle, his body was also affected by Yamato's lightning. Although the armed color domineering blocked the direct damage caused by the first round, the cold thunder had an irreversible effect on his body. Unlike the burns caused by ordinary lightning, her lightning left frostbite. In addition to the special ice lightning, her attacks also included ordinary lightning. The complex attack caused Golden Lion to suffer a lot. Chop. The high-level domineering mixed with the golden slash, turned into black and gold, and rushed down. The speed of the slash was extremely fast, exceeding any previous attack, and the power was also greatly increased. The power of the slash was simply incomparable to the past. Golden Lion's physical strength was constantly draining away, but his condition was getting better and better, just like a last gasp, stimulating the lost power. He had been passive for more than 10 years, and this battle was considered to have truly awakened him. The slash rushed towards Yamato, and she also made her own response. Thunder Strike. Guided by the mace, the thunder in the sky condensed and came, and the large-scale attack affected her herself, but with the power of Zekrom, the lightning did not cause any effect, but instead accelerated the rotation of the electric engine. Zekrom's exclusive lightning strike is completely different from ordinary lightning strikes. At the same time, a dragon's breath was also spit out from the chest of the Golden Lion that Yamato was aiming at. Various moves hit the Golden Lion one after another. Hoo-ha. The Golden Lion was panting heavily. The scattered islands around him had disappeared from his sight. Even the largest island began to fall. Give the Golden Lion some time to heal his injuries first. He will show the world his overlord level combat power. But he didn't have that opportunity. Yamato didn't want him to leave. The electric engine behind him gave Yamato almost infinite power. The slightly tired Golden Lion was heading for failure. After a long battle, the Golden Lion's physical strength was approaching the limit. You old bastard, you can't do it after all. Ha 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 ha. It's still early. It's enough to get rid of you guys. Really? I won't give you this chance, boss. A sound similar to an engine sounded, and the blue current on Yamato's body began to turn purple. Under the overclocked drive state, the power of the dragon dance began to merge into Yamato's body. The sky was completely dark. Due to the electrical engine brought by Zekrom, thunder clouds had already gathered in the sky, and as the battle continued, it gradually turned into a thunderstorm. Boom. A flash of lightning illuminated the gloomy sky, and the rain finally fell. Behind Yamato, the dark dragon shadow gradually expanded. This time it was his true posture. In mythology, Zekrom was a legendary Pokemon that burned the world with lightning and would assist those who created an ideal world. In the description of mythology, if humans lost their sense of justice, it would destroy their kingdom with violent lightning. This is also the biggest difference between the legendary beasts and ordinary Pokemon. They are not just part of the ability of ability users, but are similar to tailed beasts that actively cooperate with humans and can fight alone outside. Zekrom itself is not big in size, but at this time, the phantom rushed straight into the sky and gradually condensed into a solid entity. What a terrifying power, but I'm a Golden Lion. The rain wet the Golden Lion's hair and beard, but they still flew around under the impact of the momentum. The surrounding matter began to gather and gradually condensed into a roaring lion. The Golden Lion stood on the lion's head with the blade pointed at Yamato. Come on, kid, let me see if you are a naive fool or something else. Lion's power, Goshaji scroll. With the dead wood as the blade, the giant lion leaped into the air and swung its claws at Yamato. The power of Kyurem was in Yamato's body, and behind him was only the pure Zekrom. At this time, he was also wrapped in lightning and swung his dragon claws downwards while Yamato swung his stick. Has Yamato grown to this point? Jack and Mariah struggled to stabilize their bodies. The battle between the two monsters had already daunted them. They knew that there was a gap between them and Yamato, but they never knew that this gap was so terrifying. A large-scale earthquake occurred on the island, but it stabilized again after a short while. The dust cleared, and the giant lion, which was condensed from earth and rocks, remained on the island with its claws waving. The Golden Lion was wrapped in ice all over, and remained motionless in the previous sword-waving posture. Okay, the old guy is dead. From the moment he swung the sword, his vitality was overdrawn. Father? Why are you here? Just passing by. Why do you think this island is still floating in the sky? Your insight is not enough. Kaido had come to this floating island at some point. This island could continue to fly in the sky with his flame cloud, and the surrounding islands had already fallen into the sea. This is why Yamato has not relaxed. She thought the golden lion was still alive, so the island would always float in the sky. The gap between the golden lion with full firepower and the previous one was too big. She had no energy to be distracted, so she didn't notice Kaido's arrival, but she found something wrong. Wait, father, why are you holding a weapon? To test your recent achievements. Although you are not Shiki in his prime, you should have gained a lot of insights to be able to fight him to this extent. In this state, it is easier for you to understand something. Kaido found a reason that sounded reasonable, but in fact, he was just itching to do it. Okay, I'm ready. With the power of Zekrom, she also wanted to try something, but after she was ready, she found that Zekrom's power gradually disappeared. Zekrom? Zekrom. Hey, don't joke with me at this time. Chapter 667 ending. The golden lion was an enemy, so Zekrom certainly wouldn't spare his own strength. Without his help, it wouldn't be so easy to use lightning and frozen volts directly. But she hadn't gotten Zekrom's approval yet. This time he just thought she was pleasing to the eye, so he lent her his own strength for a short time. Unlike the transformed Great Mouth God, this power was not permanent. With the end of the battle, Zekrom naturally returned to his original space. As for Kaido, he was too lazy to intervene in the matter between father and daughter. If she really became an ideal hero, even if the father and daughter broke up, Zekrom would stand on Yamato's side, but the current situation did not meet this condition. Zekrom, after shouting several times without receiving a response, Yamato also understood what had happened. He immediately lifted his ability and lay limply on the ground. Ah, that old lion is quite powerful. I seem to be a little injured. She couldn't figure out what Kaido's current limit was, but she could simply convert it. The Golden Lion and Whitebird were the overlords of the same era. The Golden Lion, who was missing 2 legs and had a rudder stuck in his head, was obviously not as good as the Whitebird who was not yet old. Kaido fought with Whitebird in that state for 5 days. No matter how you think about it, he is more deadly than Golden Lion. Moreover, she has been beaten by Kaido for so many years. Even if she is in full state, she can't deal with this Kaido, let alone now, so she simply chose to lie down. Zekrom's retreat disrupted her overall plan. Originally, she wanted to use that power to let Kaido understand the pain she had suffered in these years, and then go back to try with Quinn. The power of Frozen Volt should be able to solve Quinn's disgusting tactics. But now, she decided to use the bad to deal with Kaido in front of her. She just experienced a big battle. This is a very reasonable reason. Are you hurt a little bit? Yeah, look here, and here. It still hurts when that old lion cuts people. She was a little disgusted with the speed of her body's recovery. Most of the sword wounds left by Golden Lion have begun to heal, and now she can only use the remaining blood stains to make up for it. Kaido looked her up and down for a few times. She guessed correctly that, if she really fell into a weak period, Kaido would not force her to fight at this time, but she also underestimated Kaido's obsession with fighting. Staying in the cloud for several days, just watching without intervening, it was already torture for him, and if you look closely, you will find that Kaido also has some traces of fighting. This is the result of his stay in the Thunder Cloud. Zekrom directly gave him an electric treatment, but he can guarantee that the desire to fight Yamato has nothing to do with this matter. Just when Yamato thought Kaido was about to give up, he suddenly threw a ball of things at him. What? You will know if you look at it yourself. Kaido's tone did not change much, but when he said this, he had already drunk the wine in the wine pot. Taking the thing thrown by Kaido, Yamato's expression gradually twisted. She knew exactly what the dried herbs were. Resurrection grass? Is this how you use it? If Golden Lion had held out for a little longer, she would have used the resurrection grass, but her own vitality had dropped too much, so she couldn't hold out. Since this thing was distributed, the usage rate has been very low. She never thought that Kaido would throw her a resurrection grass at this time. You can use this to restore your physical strength when you fight to the limit. Your godfather should have told you so, right? That fight is the same as this fight. There is also a limit to drinking too much. Aren't you still quite energetic? Yeah. Look, Thunder Bagua, this is how it should be used. Boom. Boom. When Jack and Mariah came here again, they saw Yamato and Kaido fighting, and the movement was comparable to the previous battle between Golden Lion and Yamato. Did you call Lord Kaido over here? How is that possible? I don't have the ability to do that. I guess it was arranged by Lord Arceus. Now I understand why no one responded to my call for help. Considering how smoothly they left Onigashima, I'm afraid all this was arranged. What about us now? Wait. It's time to end. When Brother Kaido has had enough fun. The scene was cruel, but the two were no longer surprised. As Yamato got older, their fights became more and more terrifying. As for trying to stop the fight, at this time, trying to stop the fight would only make Kaido a target of attack, and they didn't want to get into trouble. Under Kaido's coercion and inducement, Yamato regained his spirit and started the battle, on the condition that Kaido put the island steadily on the sea instead of throwing it down directly. The residents on the island had fled here before. They belonged to the rare-winged people and had the ability to fly. If it weren't for the Golden Lion, they would have left long ago. Now they have embarked on the road to find a new home. There are many islands in the sea, and they can find a more suitable place to live. Although there were no people, there were still many beasts that had recovered to normal. Moreover, it would be very bad if such a large island was dropped and some fish and shrimps were killed. Golden Lion's dream did not succeed after all. As a legendary pirate, his end was not luxurious. He was the first person to fall under the power of the divine beast that gave others, but there was no audience for this end. The agents of the world government and the reporters of the World Economic News Agency were not gods that were everywhere. This was an isolated sky island built by Golden Lion, and there was no cameraman to take pictures of the time. Without the deliberate publicity of the beasts, no one knew that Golden Lion had ended. In the cognition of most people, Golden Lion had disappeared long ago. There was an extraneous grave on the island, with the dead tree and Sakura 10 crossed on the grave. This was the last respect Kaido gave to Golden Lion, and he did not let him be exposed in the wilderness. Although the dead tree and Sakura 10 were famous swords, no one in the beasts was used to using such double-edged swords, so they were temporarily left here. With the current military capabilities of the beasts, they did not have to focus on these two swords. After the battle, Kaido was still not satisfied and left like a drunk to find a new unlucky guy. Yamato also took the steel crows back to Onigashima after treating his injuries. The beasts were left on the island, but all the IQ plants cultivated by Golden Lion were destroyed. In this battle, she received 15 sword wounds, countless abrasions, and 1 blunt instrument wound. The blunt instrument wound caused more serious damage, but it was not Golden Lion who caused this damage, but Kaido. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 668. The surprise came suddenly. The Steel Crow taxi is still running. Even the Steel Crow that lost contact at the beginning has returned to the formation after recovery. This incident did not cause much movement. Although some rumors have been spread, they have not attracted much attention. The source of the rumor is the passengers in the Steel Crow taxi that disappeared at the beginning. They were also the only ones taken away from the island. After receiving a compensation, they chose to forget about it. The accident of the Steel Crow taxi is an extremely low probability event. If it had not happened to meet the Golden Lion, it would not have happened at all. It's just that the Golden Lion has faded out of people's sight for too long, and there is no substantial evidence, so it has not been taken to heart by people. But within the beasts, this matter still has great significance. A lean camel is bigger than a horse. Even if it is the Golden Lion in that state, its strength is still above most people. Unless it is pulled into the theater version, it will never leave inexplicably. Even if it relies on the power of Zekrom, that power itself is prepared for her. It can only be said that she temporarily preempted the future power. When she returned to Onigashima, she was surprised to find that Arceus was actually preparing to sail. Godfather, you are going to sail? Is it strange? Yamato, you have grown up and can take on the responsibility of protecting the homeland. This is the change brought about by Yamato's growth. In the past, only one of Kaido and Arceus would leave Wano country, and the other would stay here just in case. If an accident happened to the main island that had been built for many years, the loss would be too serious. But this time it was different. Kaido was still out of contact, and Arceus chose to sail in advance. This is the result of Yamato's growing strength. Now she is no longer a child, and can share more things. Godfather, what do you mean? Literally, you can decide the direction of the voyage yourself in the future, but you have to wait for one of us to come back. Starting today, the beasts began to transform into the trident mode. It was no longer 2 people who could be stationed on the main island, but 3 people. Yamato also successfully entered the rotation sequence. Being able to hold this position naturally means that she has the right to choose to sail independently, and Quinn does not have to worry about being challenged every day. Although Zekrum's ability is temporary, there are not many enemies on the sea whose strength can catch up with the Golden Lion in its slow period. Yamato under normal circumstances can already deal with most situations. In this case, she naturally has no reason to stay on Onigashima. Onigashima-sama? Onigashima-sama. Oh, I'm fine. I just don't know what to do. Hey, Speed, what did my godfather and the others do before? She didn't react until the origin disappeared from her sight. She was in a daze. It must have come a little suddenly. The goal she had been striving for was completed just like that. This made her a little overwhelmed. The countdown to the sailing day has arrived. Kaido doesn't know when he will come back, but Arceus' sailing time is generally not too long. What she is struggling with now is how to manage Wano country. Arceus-sama usually stays on Onigashima and doesn't do anything special. They have been in Wano country for a long time and have already had a complete set of management procedures. This is also the hinterland of all beasts. It is very difficult for the enemy to come here. Staying here is just in case. Most of the time, there will be no accidents here. Whether it is Kaido or Arceus, they are more just keeping the peace. When they are present, the pirates under their command will be particularly relieved. But Yamato is in a state of 3 fires when he takes office. He is a little excited about the responsibility that he suddenly took over, so he began to patrol in Wano country. The area of Wano country is not small, but over the years, she has already walked all over here. Even the top of Fujiyama has her footprints left, but this patrol still gave her a completely different feeling. At this time, Shaina had left Wano country with Arceus. Alga was also carrying out her own activities on the sea, and even Quinn was not in Wano country, but was engaged in fruit planting on other islands. A large number of senior cadres were also scattered to different islands in the territory. The new pirates were like leaks. After dealing with a batch, it would not take long for another batch to come. No matter which sea emperor, he could not avoid the harassment of these young people. In addition to the internal struggles in the new world, the outer territories often need military support. Now there are only a few senior cadres left in Wano country, such as Jin, who stays in the flower capital most of the time. Zorora, who has the strongest mobility, also stayed in Wano country because of his children. The number of times he and Setsuna go out on field missions has been decreasing. Since dealing with Enel's affairs, he has not left here for a while, and his bounty has become the lowest among the senior cadres. The increase in bounties several times is due to the buff bonus of the beasts. The one with the exact opposite fate is Quinn. He also did nothing, but Quinn's bounty always inexplicably increased a little. No matter what new things come out in the beasts, Quinn will always be a little bit involved. Good evening, Oni-sama. Oni-sama. Several local residents greeted her on the way. In Wano country, Oni is not a derogatory term, but a compliment to the other party for being brave enough. Ordinary people cannot get this title. Yamato's patrol went smoothly. Apart from catching a thief, she did not encounter any unexpected situations. She even helped dredge the river and dig a well. It was just a matter of time for her. At least in terms of being close to the people, she performed much better than Kaido or Arceus. It's better to say that she was too close to the people. It's really a fulfilling day. Where should we go when we go sailing? Sitting by the river, Yamato skipped stones and began to think about the next journey. Sister Yamato, when you think about the next journey, can you please stop throwing stones? You scared the fish away. In the bushes next to him, page 1 suddenly came out. This was one of his fishing spots in Wano country, but Yamato's appearance scared away the fish he had attracted before. But judging from his empty bucket, even without Yamato, he should not be able to catch any fish. Peg-chan? Sorry, I didn't notice you were here. Why did you hide so well? Kaido was not in Wano country now, so she naturally would not use her observation haki all the time, and she didn't notice that there was a person hiding in the bushes not far away. Because this way, my sister can't find me. It took me a lot of effort to get rid of her. Before she could finish her words, page 1 was strangled by the neck, and Ulti had appeared behind him unknowingly. Chapter 669 New Fishman Island Plan. Little Peggy, you're already so old, and you still want to play hide and seek? Ulti suddenly appeared and locked page 1 from behind with a very precise movement. This was the daily routine of the two siblings. In Ulti's view, page 1's avoidance was just a game. The scene at this time also looked very harmonious, provided that the expression of page 1 who was about to suffocate was ignored. You two siblings have a really good relationship. How did you see that? Listening to Yamato's complaints, page 1, who finally broke free, was very confused. Ulti and Yamato seemed to quarrel frequently, but their brain circuits got along very well in some cases, such as now. Except for Yamato, it was difficult for others to come to the conclusion that they got along well. Compared with the fight between siblings, Ulti's behavior was more like murder. As for why page 1 did not resist, he tried to resist, but never succeeded. Ulti's strength grew at the same time as him, and he was always able to suppress him. After a fight, Ulti seemed to remember something. Oh, by the way, Ziope, we are going to set sail tomorrow, and we have mission to do. Mission? When did the mission come? I applied for you, didn't I tell you before? Times have changed, and Yamato and Jack have become new generation Kadas, no longer the little kids who trained themselves under protection. This also means that the era of Kada discontinuity in the beasts has ended. Before Yamato and others grew up, the beasts had never produced any new generation of powerful Kadas, and the first few were still the leaders of the beasts. People with prominent reputations such as Mandafesh were also the first old men. Not just the beasts pirates, but many pirate groups in the new world are in this state. Beasts and Big Mom also have newcomers who have grown up, and the Whitebird pirates were almost entirely supported by Whitebird at that stage. But as the young people grow up, everything has changed. Yamato and Jack and others have become adults, and Ulti and others have also reached adolescence. Now Ulti and page 1 are still half-grown children, but this age is enough to perform some missions. So their training has begun. Ulti is a person who can't sit still. Being able to drag page 1 out to perform missions is a pleasure in her life. When did you tell me about this? Page 1 began to recall what happened before. Logically, he would not forget such an important thing unless he was being tortured by Ulti at that time. No matter what happened, he would just answer perfunctorily. I suddenly remembered that there was such a thing. Looking at the change in Ulti's expression, page 1 gave up his insistence very simply. There was no way to joke about this kind of thing. The two siblings did not have their own ship. If Ulti said nonsense, they would not be able to go to sea at all. Seeing that she had the possibility of continuing to destroy herself, he chose to compromise very neatly. To a certain extent, their relationship between siblings is a bit similar to that of Kaido and Yamato now. Daily interactions are very different kinds of fighting. It's good that you remembered. Pack up and get ready to go. Wait, whose ship are you going to leave with tomorrow? When Ulti was about to take page 1 away from here, Yamato stopped them. There were not many Kadas staying on Onigashima now, and she really couldn't think of who would be more suitable for a while. It's Mandafesh. I heard that he is working on the new Fishman Island recently and plans to find a suitable place. When someone leaves, someone will naturally come back. Mandafesh came back to make daily reports, and he happened to be able to lead Ulti and page 1. The task of leading newcomers is usually given to the steady senior Kadas. Mandafesh meets this requirement in terms of qualifications, strength and personality, and he also has enough experience. As for the new Fishman Island plan, it can be regarded as a major event this year. 2 years ago, Muscarad, who returned to the Holy Land from Fishman Island, gave the approval of the Otterheim world government. After the unstable factor of Hody Jones was eliminated, no similar radical element were born in Fishman Island. With her reputation on Fishman Island, Otterheim got many residents of Fishman Island to sign a consent form for the fishermen to live on land. With the endorsement of the Celestial Dragons, they planned to build a second home for the fishermen. The world government did not make any trouble in this matter, because this matter was not only endorsed by the Celestial Dragons, but also a good opportunity to promote the reputation of the world government. The Great Pirate Era is getting more and more intense, and the revolutionary army formed by Dragon has also caused more problems. At the World Conference not long ago, they finally faced up to the danger of Dragon to the royal power, but they had no idea how to deal with Dragon. After all, the revolutionary army is only active in some areas, and most people hold the mentality of not caring about it. The collapse of the royal power of other countries has nothing to do with them, and some people wish that other kingdoms will be in trouble. The world is so big, and they have problems, so they have the qualifications to intervene and seize benefits. In the chaos, the equality obtained by the fishermen can better shape the glorious image of the world government. However, the world government's move was very special. The condition they gave was that the kingdom of Ryugu choose a suitable place by itself. In this world, dominated by the sea, land resources are limited. No one is willing to give an island directly to others, and the world government does not want to touch its own cake. The kingdom of Ryugu is still a member country. From a legal point of view, it is legal for them to do anything to non-member countries. This is also the condition given by the world government to the kingdom of Ryugu, allowing them to choose an island that is not a member country by themselves, and that island will be theirs from now on. Neither Otterheim nor Neptune are war factions. Their choice is to find an uninhabited island for a development. It is not difficult for them to just develop an island, but the reality is much more complicated than the ideal. Before, Otterheim thought that the biggest obstacle was the ideas of the residents of Fishman Island and the attitude of the world government. But when all these were solved, she found a more difficult problem to face. Compared with the ideas of fishermen and mermaids, humans with bad intentions are a bigger problem. The barrier of the 10,000 meter deep sea cannot prevent them from harassing the human slave hunting team, and it is even more so after leaving the deep sea. The business of those slave hunting teams can continue because they have people behind them. Having received the news in advance, they ambushed many people nearby. As for the original Whitebird flag, it was also prohibited in the agreement with the world government. Fishman Island still has a lot of troubles to deal with. Girl, don't worry. I'm a transport envoy of the transport department. You ask me what I'm doing? I'm helping an old lady cross the street. Why do I do this? Because the system said I can't live for more than 3 days. Oh, by the way, there is one more thing. I found that there is a tunnel in my house that leads directly to the next door. Then a princess moved in next door. New author, many heroines, light-hearted and humorous style, very comfortable to read, and a little sweet. Those who are interested should not miss it. Chapter 670, The Concept of the Underground Maze and the Giant Ants. Fishman Island has avoided a lot of troubles by relying on Whitebird's pirate flag. The world government also knows this. In the deep sea, they are too lazy to care about this matter, but it is not the case on land. This is a territory allocated to Fishman Island by the world government. If the pirate flag is hung on this island, it is something that the world government cannot accept. So in the agreement, if they hang a flag other than the Sun Pirates, the island will automatically lose its status as a member country. The kingdom of Ryugu needs this identity. With this identity, the slave hunting team and pirates who have ideas about fishermen and mermaids, or at least no one will do that kind of thing blatantly. The world government is still the strongest force on the sea. Without this protection, they may face more troubles. Even if the kingdom army of some countries comes to plunder here, it is legal. In this case, they had to agree to those agreements. They can't hang flags openly, but there are still ways to deal with it privately. As for the protection of the navy, in theory, this island also enjoys the qualification of being protected by the navy, but it is only in theory. The world government has no idea of including this place in the scope of the navy's protection, and Fishman Island has never mentioned this matter. Unless the navy is allowed to station troops directly on the island, there is no time at all, but even Otterheim would not agree to such a thing. Fishman Island has to rely on the world government, but neither Otterheim nor Neptune has any confidence in the navy. This is determined by their living environment. In the past hundreds of years, Fishman Island has never been under the jurisdiction of the navy. Today, the island is still under construction, and it has only encountered some scattered minor troubles. With the Sun Pirates, they can still deal with it, but such an environment cannot allow ordinary citizens to settle down. This is also one of the goals of the world government. They hope that Fishman Island can share more of the pirate pressure and capture some slaves in the chaos. Although Musgard is a celestial dragon, he cannot represent the entire celestial dragon group, and he is not the only one interested in Fishman slaves. If you want to change the situation here, looking at the forces that Otterheim and Neptune can trust, the 100 Beasts route has become the only choice. Legal, powerful, accepting the Fishman tribe, and at the same time satisfying Otterheim's wish for the two races to live in peace. Speech cannot bring peace. Only by beating those people to death can you bring stability. The beasts naturally have their own goal, which is the fishmen themselves. This race is more suitable for underwater combat than humans. In order to prepare for future wars, the expansion and conscription of the beasts have never stopped, and absorbing more fishmen is also in their plan. Otterheim originally communicated this matter with Tesoro, but Tesoro reported it to his superiors, so Manfesh led the team here. They will not show up, but it is more convenient to deal with some things. During this period, a team of fishmen also quietly came to the island. Brother Tay, long time no see, how are you recently? Jinbei, who was in charge of the garrison on the island, looked happy. He hadn't seen his boss for a long time. Not bad, you seem to have grown a lot. Patting Jinbei on the shoulder, Tiger looked at the island that was still under development. This island is a big deal for the fishmen. Tiger, who received the news, naturally rushed over, and he also brought a special person, Tom. As the top shipbuilder of the fishmen, he can build more than just ships. In this era of great pirates, ships that can sail on the sea have a certain counterattack capability. When building the sea train, Tom made some large weapons to drive away sea beasts. Without the deep sea as a barrier, they had to consider more things when building the city, so Tiger brought Tom here to help. This is a big project. This is the first time I build an island from scratch. Tom complained about the huge amount of work, but he had already started drawing the manuscript. This was a big event for the fishmen. As a member of the fishmen, he also wanted to contribute. Uncle Tom, I'll leave this to you. I'll go over there and take a look. Don't worry, I will design it well. Wait, Senior Tom, if you want to design it, please improve it according to this plan. This is what Her Royal Highness the Princess has discussed with them. Tom, who had just arrived here, didn't understand the situation here. The fishmen who were originally working on the construction gave Tom a rough plan. This is an underground maze. Do you want to use the maze to defend against the enemy? That was a general design plan. This island looks like a barren stone island, but it has a large number of underground rivers. The current plan is to break through the ground, expose the original underground space, and then transform the central area. The outer underground river can become a natural defense barrier, and at the same time, use the complex maze road to force the invaders into a desperate situation. The overall structure is similar to that of Wano country, both of which are easy to defend and difficult to attack. However, Wano country is above the sea level, and the plan here is below sea level. At this stage, the main residents here are still the fish people and mermaids. Water will not pose any threat to them, and they also have bubble film technology to use. This is also one of the reasons that limit their site selection. Mermaids need to rely on bubbles to live, and bubbles can only be produced in large quantities and maintained for a long time near the Sabaody archipelago. This place is still within the influence range of the Sabaody archipelago, and a large number of bubbles can be relied on to complete some ideas. The bubble film will prevent seawater from flowing back and at the same time seal the entrance above. Entering from above will trigger an early warning, which is an illegal invasion. If you want to come in, you still have to take the regular underwater passage, which is very similar to Fishman Island, but the water here is only a few dozen meters deep, not as deep as the original Fishman Island. Then there is this maze. After passing through the maze, you can successfully reach the residential area. The residential area even has an escape passage to the deep sea. Although it's a bit strange, the idea is okay, but how to build this maze? This structure cannot use a lot of gunpowder. I don't know how many years it will take manpower, and what should I do if the trap accidentally hurts ordinary people? Tom thought there was nothing wrong with this idea, but it was very difficult to put it into practice, especially how to transform the underground cave was a big problem. We don't know either. Those people told us not to worry, they would take care of it. Those people. At this time, on Mandafesh's ship, in addition to the pirates, there was also a large group of brown creatures. The huge heads and bodies were somewhat disproportionate, and they looked more like turtles, but they were ants and Pokemon, giant jaw ants. Chapter 671 Pokemon Blessings. Before Arceus left Onigashima, these giant jaw ants had been transformed. Digging holes is the specialty of most ground type Pokemon, and they all have the ability to build underground caves. But among many ground type Pokemon, the situation of giant jaw ants is quite special. They not only know how to dig holes, but are also experts in making underground traps, and they also have special needs for water sources. The giant jaw ants themselves are not very dependent on water, but their evolution is different. Their evolution method is similar to that of Kara, and they all have a cocoon-like process. If they want to successfully evolve into ultrasonic larvae, they need a large environment with sufficient water sources. There is a dangerous area on Abe Island in the Pokemon world, which is called the underground maze of giant jaw ants. The surface is full of giant jaw ant nests. The seemingly arid environment actually hides another mystery. Under the ground is a huge underground lake, so the ones sent here are giant jaw ants. The rich underground dark rivers under the island meet their needs for water sources. The innate ability to make traps allows them to further improve the safety level of the underground maze, and the need for evolution allows them to better adapt to the specific environment of that island. Their nests, which are traps for enemies, are shaped like garlic mortars. They are death traps that are set to prevent prey from climbing out once they fall into them. Even if they don't evolve, they are good enough to serve as guards. When they evolve, their power will be even more terrifying. These guys look silly. Are they really okay? Many of the big jawed ants on the deck are struggling to straighten themselves with the help of their companions. Although they need water to grow, they are ground type Pokemon after all, and usually don't ride on boats. Just now, a small-scale tsunami appeared on the sea, and many big jawed ants turned upside down. The disadvantages of their body structure also appeared. The pair of giant jaws are their weapons for survival, which can easily crush rocks, but the huge heads also make them top heavy, and it is difficult for them to turn over by themselves when they are overturned. When the big jawed ants fall in groups, the scene becomes very funny. When has anything created by Lord Arceus ever gone wrong? It's just that this is not the place for them to use their abilities. Let's go. If we have time to watch here, we might as well help them turn over. Several pirates joined the rescue team of the mandible ants. As the pirate said, they were restricted by the ship. If they were on the ground, they could just chew a hole in the ground and then adjust their bodies. But this is on a ship. If they do that, the ship will become a sampan in a few days and sink directly to the bottom. That's why the mandible ants were killed in groups. As for why these people are so enthusiastic, this is a current feature of the Beast's pirates. The Pokemon created regard them as friendly forces, but that is only the reputation of the camp. Pokemon will not attack them, nor will they like them much. They just regard them as familiar strangers. If you want to get along well with Pokemon, you have to brush up your individual reputation. For now, getting familiar with Pokemon has only benefits, not disadvantages. For example, if the inspection team inside Wano country can get the approval of the Great Wolf Dog, they can become a small leader. If even the Great Wolf Dog does not look down on them, they can only be a nobody. This is just an example. Many positions can only be filled by people who get along well with Pokemon. Every time a new Pokemon is born, there will be more positions inside the beasts, which is also in line with the expansion of the beasts. In the eyes of these pirates, these newly born mandibles are a way to get promoted. As for why they like promotion so much, it has a lot to do with their boss. Mandibles has gathered a large number of social animal talents under his command. The goal is to work hard to get promoted, and then retire smoothly with a good position. These people are busy brushing their proficiency with the mandibles, and some brave people are teasing the mandibles, such as Ulti. She is now holding the fish that page 1 just caught as bait, dangling in front of the mandibles. These seemingly cute guys are real carnivores, and the bite force of their big mouths can easily bite off people's hand bones. After failing to eat the fish for several times, the big jaw ant became visibly impatient. Sister, isn't this too dangerous? It's okay. It's not like we won't give it to it. We are just playing around. As the big jaw ant spoke, it bit the fish. Looking at the neatly cut end of the fish, it was estimated how much strength the big jaw ant had used. After several times, page 1 was also a little panicked. That's enough, sister. There's only half of the fish left. It's too dangerous. It's okay. It's still quite long. What are you afraid of? Of course you're not afraid. That's my hand. Page 1 pulled out his hand and threw the fish tail tied to it directly to the big jaw ant. After he caught the fish, Ulti suddenly tied the fish to his arm and then played this dangerous game. At first, it was relatively safe, and he didn't resist much, but as the remaining part of the fish body became shorter and shorter, he was really scared, and he directly transformed his ability and broke free from Ulti. Okay, Peggy 1, stop messing around. Go scout that ship over there. There's something wrong with the ship's route. Mandafesh's voice stopped the siblings' fight, or rather, saved Peggy 1 from the sea of suffering. Many people on the ship were from the original scout team, and it wasn't the siblings' turn to scout. But this trip was meant to hone the siblings, so Mandafesh sent Peggy 1 out. The current location is close to the entrance to the new world. At this point, the deterrent power of the beast pirate flag has begun to decline. The new pirates are the most inflated in the 3 stages of just setting sail, arriving at the Sabaody archipelago, and arriving at the new world. At this time, they dare to try anything. Looking at the route of the ship, Mandafesh felt that something was wrong. I know. No matter what the mission is, it's a good thing to be able to escape from Ulti's clutches. Peggy 1 flipped over the side of the ship and flew into the sky, but some things can't be avoided just by flying. He needed a buffer to take off, and during this time, Ulti had already jumped onto his back and firmly grasped his dorsal fin. Sister, let's go. Go scouting quickly. Don't worry about such trivial matters. Looking at the siblings taking off, the younger brother next to them complained about their unseriousness. Brother, they are too young. They are so impulsive that they are not suitable for the job of scouts. People always need some tempering. Get ready for battle. I think that ship is a bit strange. Chapter 672, Hitting My Teammates. Brother Mandafish, is it really necessary for us to do this? Isn't it enough to get to Seekings nearby? While the siblings ran to scout the situation, the younger brother beside Mandafish was a little confused about the action plan. Seekings? Where do you think there are more Seekings than near Fishman Island? That is 10,000 meters deep in the sea. Seekings alone can't scare those guys, and Seekings won't listen to people's orders. Do you want the fish people to be wiped out? Seekings will not only attack pirate ships that they don't like, but also fishermen and mermaids. Apart from Seekings and Manaphy, there is currently no technology that can control Seekings. It's unknown how long Shirahoshi will need to awaken the Seeking. As for Manaphy, it's not a good choice to let him be tied to the island because of this. He can only persuade the Seekings to give him face. If he was not there one day, it was uncertain whether the Seekings would give face to other fishermen or mermaids. Moreover, the benefits that mermaids could bring were too great. Even the 10,000 meter deep sea could not stop them. It would take more than 1 or 2 days to solve those problems. Okay, don't worry about what the higher ups have decided. Bring the big jaw ants back to the cabin. It would be troublesome if they fell into the sea. The big jaw ants could not swim. His intuition told him that a battle might happen soon. Now was the time to take precautions. while arranging his men to prepare for the battle. He also observed the situation of Ulti and Page 1. Although they were still young, their biggest advantage was that they could fly. In theory, they would not encounter any risks. But before he could react, Page 1 suddenly crashed. Just as he was about to act, the rotom on his body flew out and started the forced call mode. This was also the ability of the full version of the rotom phone. People with higher authority could forcefully connect to the rotom of people with lower authority. The rotom living in the phone would analyze the situation and environment to decide whether to report the news immediately. Looking at the rotom that flew out, Mandafesh frowned. "Hey, who is that? I'm busy here, tell me what's going on." "It's me, Mandafesh. Are you getting carried away? Are you sending people to blow up my ship?" "Sister Olga, I'm not. I'm almost at Fishman Island now." Peggy 1. "Wait, that ship is yours, sister?" Olga on the other side of the screen adjusted the angle to reveal Peggy 1 and Ulti behind them, which allowed Mandafesh to figure out what happened. There was no possibility of an accident with Rotom, and in his sight, the unknown pirate ship gradually became illusory and finally turned into the Shadow Fox. "Do you know what's going on now?" Sister Olga, wait a minute, I'll come over." Alert lifted. "It's one of ours." His intuition was right. There was indeed something wrong with the ship, but this problem was not what he thought, but another weird problem. Olga's daily activities are to move around Shapaodi and hunt those annoying slave traders. From the beginning, she has concealed her true identity in this regard, and often uses other pirate groups to hunt those human traffickers. Every time the Shapaodi auction starts, the human traffickers will become active, and that is her hunting time. Although those human traffickers have a complicated background on the sea, Olga never worries about this problem. Even if some slaves who were captured again leaked her information, no one could find her, because every time she took action, she used a different face, gender, age, and body shape. Everything about her is a mystery. Except for the entourage on the ship. Even if they are from the same pirate group, they don't know what identity Olga is using. She recognized Mandafesh's ship, but she didn't remove her disguise. There were fish she caught nearby, and she didn't want to expose her identity. According to common sense, Mandafesh would not attack other ships for no reason. Mandafesh felt that the trajectory of the Shadow Fox was strange, because the navigator of the Shadow Fox stopped briefly when asking Olga if she wanted to approach. The two ships were not far apart and soon approached each other. The scene seemed a little awkward for a while. "Sister Olga, they said you sent them out." "That's right. I brought them out to experience it, but I just asked them to scout the situation. Can either of you give me an explanation?" Mandafesh looked at the siblings, wanting to know what was going on. "Brother Mandafesh, this was actually an accident." Page 1 explained what happened before, and time went back a few minutes. He took Ulti closer to the ship. Olga's illusion lasted for a long time, but she was a little lazy at the time. Seeing that there were no targets nearby, she reduced the number of NPCs. So from the perspective of outsiders, the ship was like a ghost ship, with no one on the deck. Normally, they only needed to go back and report, and many things would be clear by then, but Ulti chose an unusually rough situation. "Since there is a problem, let's fire a cannon to see what happens." So he spit a dragon's breath on the deck. The illusion used for disguise is different from the illusion used to deceive the opponent's mind. At this time, Olga used the most common illusion, which would reveal its true form when attacked, but she was not so unresponsive to the attacks of the two children. After offsetting Ulti's dragon breath, she captured the two people and then contacted Mandafesh, which led to the current situation. Conclusion: Ulti successfully attacked the disguised friendly forces in her first mission and achieved an epoch-making feat. "Sister Olga, you didn't cause any damage?" "That's not the case, but this reckless character is not good. Lend her to me and give her a little punishment. It's not a big deal in itself. After all, she is still a child, but she wants to let the other party know that being too reckless will have a price to pay." Olga has the highest status here. Since it was the result of Ulti's recklessness, Mandafesh did not resist and let Olga take Ulti away. Then Olga played with her like a doll and changed her into a cute dress. "Well, not bad. Very cute. Just be a good bait for me and forget about this matter." No matter how realistic the false illusion is, it is not as real as a real bait. Ulti is very beautiful when she is dressed up. Little girls of this age are the favorite of human traffickers. Then she and Peggy 1 were put on a small boat and released as a lifeboat. She was going to use the brother and sister as bait. Chapter 673, Wakatsuki Hunter Katarina Deppen. Sister Olga, are you too skilled? At this time, Mandafash's ship and Shadow Fox disappeared in the sea, entering a stealth mode. If you don't hide the hook well when fishing, it will be difficult for those big fish to bite the hook. Watching the people on the Shadow Fox skillfully enter their positions, Mandafash felt that he had a wrong perception. He used to think that Olga was a relatively normal one among the big carders, but now it seems that she has a very bad taste. You don't have many opportunities to deal with those human traffickers. Those guys are cunning, and you may not be able to catch them without some tricks. Over the years, she has been fighting wits and courage with this group, and fishing enforcement can only be regarded as the most basic method. But Sister Olga, this may not be able to catch the human traffickers, right? Yes, but when you fish, will you only focus on one fish? Whoever bites the hook will be unlucky. They will never kill the wrong fish. If you are in a hurry, go there first. I will send these two little guys to you in a few days. Fishing is an activity that tests patience. Olga doesn't think that fish will bite the hook immediately after throwing the bait. Okay, then leave it to you, sister. Before Mandafash finished speaking, a pirate ship appeared nearby, and it seemed to see the bait they put out, and approached this side. It seems that you can wait a little longer. Hey, you two little ghosts, behave better. Olga shouted at the two people under the side of the ship. Although nothing can be seen on the sea, the brother and sister are very close to the Shadow Fox. If they have good hearing, they can even hear what each other is saying. Ulti and Peggy 1 see on the small boat, can't see where the Shadow Fox is now, but they can only hear Olga's message. For page 1, it was very happy to see the target appear so quickly. He now hoped to end this voyage as soon as possible more than Ulti, because he was also dressed in women's clothes. This was Olga's bad taste. She thought that girls were more suitable to be bait than boys, so she directly changed page 1 into a set of women's clothes. From the same family, page 1 would also be a handsome girl after a little dressing up. As the saying goes, if a man really has no achievements, he can consider wearing women's clothes to cause trouble. Page 1 has a face that meets the requirements. In addition, he also has long hair, and after the treatment, he looks like a pair of sisters. Help, help. Page 1 pinched his throat and waved his arms towards the approaching pirate ship, wanting to end this suffering as soon as possible. Ziope, don't work so hard. It's quite relaxing this way, and this is the first time I realize that a skirt looks good on you. Shut up. Who do you think this is because of? Wow, Ziope, you are so mean to me. Looking at Ulti's fake crying, a smile appeared on the corner of page 1's mouth. He had guessed that Ulti would be like this. At this time, a sister who was fake crying was more in line with the image. At this time, the other party's pirate ship was getting closer and closer to them. The probability of a shipwreck on the Grand Line is very high. When seeing unidentified floating objects on the sea, many pirates are used to taking a look. If they are lucky, they can salvage a batch of treasures. The other party's pirate ship naturally had this idea in mind. As they got closer and closer, the pirate flag on the ship became more obvious. Page 1 is quite talented. Has he decided where to go next? I think he is very suitable for this bait job. Not yet, but Jack seems to want to transfer page 1 to his fleet. Really? They have a really good relationship. Haven't you found out which pirate is on the other side? We found the big sister. It's this year's supernova, Wakatsuki Hunter Katarina Deppen. The bounty is 390 million baileys. It's so high. The pirate next to him found information about the other party in a pile of bounties, and sighed slightly about the other party's bounty. This amount of bounty is also at the level of Carter's in the New World Pirate Group. A pirate who has just completed the first half of the journey is a rare villain who can reach this bounty, and is also the leader of the same period in terms of strength. There are not many pirates who dare to attack Judicial Island. Without such a feat, those who can make the bounty exceed 300 million are rare monsters. 390 million. That's quite an incredible newcomer. I hope she's a sensible person. In the process of hunting the human traffickers, Olga would also do something else, such as recruiting new members for the pirate group, or using these people to exchange for money. The fight between pirates is not just about killing or conquering. If they recognize an opponent, they will bury the opponent, but in most cases, they will not waste the bounty on the pirate. This is the norm in the territory of the New World Sea Emperor. At least half of the pirates who come to provoke are sent to the navy for money. There are also underground merchants in the New World who make a living from this. After all, pirates cannot go to the navy base to exchange money by themselves, which gives these middlemen the opportunity to make a profit. Olga is even more extreme in this regard. Due to her own ability, she doesn't even need to find middlemen. Ulti in page 1's boat was pulled onto the deck by the other party, but they didn't know that someone was already eyeing them just a stone's throw away. "Captain, they are two very pretty little girls," a pirate shouted behind him, emphasizing the word pretty, but with a hint of regret in his tone, because his captain had a very bad character in this regard. She would hunt down women who were prettier than her, regardless of age, as long as she didn't like them, and they were prettier than her. The nickname of Hunter was also related to this. The faces of those hunted by her would be peeled off and made into specimens. Such a bad behavior made her have such a high bounty when she was halfway through the voyage. As for the appearance of his own captain, it was not that he had no confidence, but that his own captain really did not have the qualifications to make him confident. Fortunately, this beauty was based on her own subjective consciousness, and she was very confident in herself. Otherwise the women she met would basically have no way to survive. This is also why she would keep some women around her, because she felt that those people were not as beautiful as herself. If she wanted to live safely by her side, she had to admire her and satisfy her vanity when Deppen thought she was more beautiful. Of course, he would never dare to say this to her face, otherwise he would definitely be whipped to death. Following such a captain, they have already figured out the captain's character. According to her habits, these two little girls are likely to be in trouble. Chapter 674. Why do you have the illusion that you are not deceived by the illusion? On the deck, a heavily made up woman came out, wearing luxurious clothes and a lot of accessories. Her square face and special long nose formed a unique landscape. Her taste was not bad. If you don't look at her face, the combination of her body was actually very perfect, but her face shape could only be saved by plastic surgery. To really good little kids, there are just 2 empty seats on my table. Deppen had a slightly cruel smile on her lips. Even with the mask blocking her, some things still couldn't be covered up. She was about to reach out to check the appearance of the two little ghosts, but she suddenly had an inexplicable feeling in her heart. She couldn't say what this feeling was, but looking at the pirate next to her, she suddenly picked up the whip at her waist and whipped it. This was the weapon she was most used to. After a burst of braking air, the whip whipped the pirate's body and immediately drew a blood mark on his chest. Strange, this feeling is a bit strange. Looking at the pirate wailing on the ground, she looked at the weapon in her hand with a little hesitation. She couldn't tell what was wrong, but she just felt something was wrong. Then she took out her pistol and started shooting at the wailing pirate until she ran out of bullets. "Captain, why? Did he do anything?" "No, I just suddenly felt that there was something wrong with this person. If it were an ordinary person, she wouldn't do such a thing, even if she felt it was strange, but she was different. As a person who pursued freedom, she used her will to the extreme. Between the lives of her subordinates and her own intuition, she chose to believe in her intuition. Although Deppen was cruel in the past, she was still generous to her subordinates. Now her behavior scared the pirates around her and made them take 2 steps back unconsciously. How did you two drift here? Looking at page 1 and Ulti, Deppen began to doubt the identities of the two people. After the two appeared, she had that weird feeling in her heart. She felt that there must be some connection between them. Although she was asking questions, she didn't wait for the siblings to answer. With her other hand, she pulled out the dagger at her waist and stabbed them in the neck. Deppen is very skilled in both swords and guns. She was born into an aristocratic family and was originally a rich lady. Both her swordsmanship and gun skills have reached the point of perfection. but they do not conform to the local aesthetics, both in character and appearance. In the eyes of the locals, she does not look like a rich lady at all. In pursuit of that freedom, she finally embarked on this pirate path. She was confident that she could use this sword to cut off the face completely, but her hand was just swung out and was firmly caught in midair. You have a very good combat intuition. You can detect abnormalities. You are the first among the newcomers. There was a ripple in the air, and Olga's figure appeared in front of D-Pen out of thin air. Looking at the appearance of Olga, D-Pen was not very scared. These two little brats are indeed problematic. The ability to disguise? The new world is really exciting. I hope you can still say that in a few minutes. As a newcomer, you are not bad, but that's all. As Olga began to take on the position of disaster, fewer and fewer people could see through her ability. If she didn't take action first, few people could find her trace. Strictly speaking, D-Pen didn't find Olga either. It was just that her combat instinct made her feel that something was wrong. She used an alternative method to force Olga out. She had to ensure the safety of her bait. Captain of the ship. She is a senior cadre of the beasts. It's a phantom disaster. D-Pen didn't panic, but it didn't mean that her little brother wouldn't be afraid. At this point, although there are still many young and inexperienced people, there are also many pirates who know the reputation of the Emperor of the Sea. Olga not only removed her own disguise, but also the disguise of the two pirate ships. Looking at the pirate flags of the beasts on the Shadow Fox and Mandafesh's pirate ships, some people with more experience inevitably felt a sense of fear. You're such a big shot. What do you want to do? Recruit me? Recruit? No, I just want to exchange you for some pocket money. The things in your cabin are disgusting. Lord Arceus hates pirates like you the most. She had already checked the whole ship, and those collections made her feel disgusted, and the other party's appearance did not meet the recruitment conditions of the beasts. Most of the female pirates in the beasts have pretty good looks, and D-Pen's ugly style is seriously inconsistent with the beasts. As a fisherman, when you catch some scourges like scavengers, you also need to protect the environment. Disgusting? It seems that you don't understand art at all. Only in this way can we ensure that those things will not wither. Although you are a little bit behind, you can barely be included. You are just an old guy who has been out to sea for a few years. Do you really think you are invincible? Even if you are a newcomer, you have your own pride. Hearing Olga belittle her collection, D-Pen was very upset. The other party's identity did not scare her. She shook her wrist and whipped the whip in her other hand towards Olga. But in midair, her whip inexplicably broke into several sections, and Olga in front of her became an illusory bubble again. Why do you think that the one who grabbed your arm must be the real one? The surrounding environment shook like the surface of the water, and the black and purple energy swept the entire deck. The hostile pirates on the ship suddenly entered a state of cannibalism. People with strong strength can crush the weak, but Olga is different. These people who have just entered the new world and have only just begun to understand the domineering have no ability to resist her. Intuition can make D-Pen aware of abnormalities, but it can't help her turn the tide. Olga in front of D-Pen suddenly turned into Elizabeth, and the blade hidden in Elizabeth's tail was the one that just cut off her whip. And on her fingertips, the water energy has also condensed. Looking at the ripple-like water splash, D-Pen felt a creepy feeling in her heart, but before she could make an evasive move, the claws wrapped in evil energy hit her neck. This time it was Olga's body that appeared, and the vital attack hit the bullseye. D-Pen's consciousness fell into a blank for a moment, and then the water wave hit the bullseye and hit her directly into the sea. These are different schools within the beasts. The reckless school headed by Kaido uses hard power to do anything, but in addition to this, a special steady school was born, and Olga is a representative of the steady school. In battle, even if the opponent's strength is not as good as hers, she will not choose to rush head on, but use illusions to interfere with the opponent's judgment and give a fatal blow from the dark, and at the same time, she will not be unethical and pull Elizabeth to fight the opponent. Although she could win by rushing, it was not necessary. If she could avoid it, there was no need to fight hard. This was her current fighting philosophy. This was related to her evil personality and her experience of surviving in the stomach of a sea king. When she met an opponent like Jack, she could lose clearly, but when facing Olga, many people lost very uncomfortably. Chapter 675 Arceus' career as a grandfather. As the vital points were attacked, and the water waves hit one after another, Deppen was blown away. Under normal circumstances, she would fall directly into the sea, and Elizabeth would give her another stab underwater. But the result was not so easy. A ball of pink smoke exploded on Deppen's body in midair, and several fluffy tails appeared from behind, and his hands and feet became like those of canines. Then he kicked his feet in the air, and returned to the deck again. Skills like moon steps are not uncommon in the New World, but it is also very rare for a pirate who has just entered the New World to use such means. Of course, what is even rarer is her ability to withstand attacks. Oh, an animal type ability user? No wonder he is so strong. Seeing that Deppen did not lose consciousness directly, Olga was slightly shocked. Under normal circumstances, such a person must be recruited. It seems that it is not an ordinary animal type, but a rare mythical beast. Ordinary beasts do not have 9 tails. In fact, this is exactly the case. Deppen is the user of the dog fruit, the mythical beast, the 9-tailed fox form. The rare mythical beast makes her physique different from that of ordinary people, so she can withstand Olga's attack without losing consciousness. It's just that the collections in her cabin make Olga feel disgusted, and she has no intention of recruiting such people. It's not surprising that a few talented newcomers appear occasionally. Since they failed to defeat them once, they can try again. 2 balls of dark energy condensed in Olga's palms, and the dark blast was ready to go. But Deppen was suddenly wrapped in a ball of pink smoke in midair, and fell to the deck with the impact of the dark blast. After the smoke dissipated, Deppen's figure disappeared, replaced by 2 identical ulti. Hey, you're playing this trick in front of me. You look down on me. The ability brought by the 9-tailed fox fruit is imitation, which is similar to the mimicry fruit. It can make her look like other people, and to a certain extent, the 9-tailed fox's changes are more delicate. Whether it is body shape or clothing, it can become exactly the same. Although it is not the same as the illusion, in the final analysis, the effect achieved is similar. Olga has been studying illusions for more than 10 years. Using this in front of her is really a bit contemptuous. Deppen actually has no other choice. Although she still retains consciousness and has not fainted, Olga's attack is not easy to bear. Olga is not the type of person who fights head-on, but it depends on who she is compared with. Her ability to fight head-on against opponents of the same level is nothing, but for a newcomer, it is still not so easy to bear. If such an attack comes again, Deppen will not be able to bear it. Pirates advocate freedom, but the premise of freedom is to survive. Although they cannot escape from here, they can try to fish in troubled waters, and then look for the next opportunity. It's just that she chose the wrong target. The people present have countless ways to distinguish the true from the false. For example, Elizabeth and Olga can detect the difference in the breath of the two. For Pokemon ability users, the breath of power that also comes from Arceus is particularly obvious. They don't need a high level of observation haki. As long as the opponent stands by their side, they can accurately lock onto the opponent. Not to mention the rotom on his body, his ID card, his own ability transformation, and a series of other ways to verify his identity. Not being able to kill a newcomer twice in a row was also a shame for Olga. As a fox, she would not be afraid of a 9-tailed fox. The claws after the beastification were wrapped in the armed color domineering, and then hit the opponent's face mercilessly, leaving her no chance to speak. In her unreserved situation, Deppen lost consciousness in confusion. She didn't understand why the opponent locked her identity so easily. Clean up. Hurry up and solve this. Those with bounties can exchange them for money. Those without bounties can be dealt with. After confirming that Deppen was unconscious, several brothers immediately took out Seaston handcuffs and handcuffed him aside, waiting to give them to the Navy in exchange for bounties. This was the most profitable way under the current situation. The battle ended quickly, but Ulti didn't feel good. It was very strange to see an identical self being beaten. After the short bait career ended, the two groups parted ways. Mandafesh led them to the new Fishman Island, while Olga headed towards the nearest G5 branch, intending to quickly cash in Deppen's group. At the same time, the other ship continued its voyage. In the first half of the Grand Line, on the Origin, the entire front deck was vacated. Except for Shaina, no one dared to stay here now. The style of painting here made them unacceptable for a while. Master Holy Beast, isn't it a bit inappropriate for you to bring them out? Just two little guys. Don't you think this is very similar to more than 10 years ago? Yamato and Jack were also such little guys at that time. That's not what I meant. Your decisions are naturally correct, but these two little guys are too lively. Shaina threw out the red chain in her hand and caught Miyawana and Wolf who were climbing on the side of the ship. Should we at least bring Setsuna with us? I always feel weird that she and Aurora are not here. Holding a little guy in one hand, Shaina threw them back to the Jigglypuff next to her. They were much more lively than expected. Miyawana and Wolf, according to their age, belong to the third generation of the beasts. As the eldest son of Aurora, the siblings were born with a silver spoon in their mouths. Now the siblings are just over 3.5 years old, which is the age that even dogs despise. With Arceus's love, sometimes they can be said to be lawless. And Setsuna is also the most carefree mother in Shaina's cognition. Although there is no danger in following Arceus, it can only be said that she dares to let go at this age. It can only be said that it is a characteristic of the minx. But considering that the young people of the minx generally dare to sneak out of Zal when they were young, this becomes very reasonable. Let them go. Maybe they will have new children when they go back this time. He just helped to look after the children and let them see the world in advance. Lord Arceus, we found a strange thing in the sea. Soon after, Miyawana and Wolf came to Arceus holding a drifting bottle, which contained a note and a map with slightly provocative words. If you are a pirate among pirates, bring your trusted companions to this island. Right square bracket. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.